is suing the mother of his child, 22-year-old homemaker Suhey Gonzalez, for having him falsely arrested for domestic violence. Suhey says Jason threatened their infant son with a knife.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom. Your Honor, this is case number 174 on the calendar in the matter of Lopez versus Gonzalez. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Mr. Lopez, you and the defendant have a child together. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
It is your complaint that the defendant had you arrested on false charges of assault, domestic violence, and you want to be compensated for that. And in addition, you want a home entertainment center that you say was yours, that is in the defendant's home. The defendant says that the home entertainment center was a gift. You did, in fact, assault her, and she is counterclaiming for her injuries.
I don't have nothing. He took everything.
Defendant says home entertainment center was a gift. Do you still have it?
No, he took everything.
She doesn't have it. And that you did, in fact, assault her. And her counterclaim is for the injuries that she suffered during the course of this assault, which occurred around Christmas time. Is that right?
Christmas Day.
Okay. All right, Mr. Lopez. Were you living with the defendant at the time that you were arrested?
I was moving out. I was in the moving out.
He was already a week out.
I'm going to get to you in a minute, but don't interrupt him. What do you mean you were in the process of moving out? What does that mean?
The day after Thanksgiving, we had a really big argument and we had broken up. So we made an agreement by no later than the first week of January that I had to have everything of mine moved out and be completely moved out. I was staying between there, like a few days if I babysitted my son, or I stood at my best friend's house or my mother's house.
So most of the time you weren't living there?
Yes.
All right. So tell me about Christmas Day. You came over to the house?
What happened was we agreed to meet up at my best friend's house. We picked up my son and her son, her other child, and we agreed to go back to her house, to her apartment, and open up the children's gifts together. And from there, when we arrived at the home, we opened the gifts. She asked me to stay a little bit longer while she took a shower so I could watch the children. I agreed. At that time, I received a phone call from my fiancé on my fiancé's cell phone, just before she went to the bathroom to take a shower. At that time, I was speaking to her. I explained to her what time I was going to be finished. I explained to her that she was going to take a shower and I was going to meet up with her right after. At that time, she began screaming, saying stuff that didn't need to be said over the phone for my fiancé to hear. So at that time, I said, why are you acting up? You know what, I'm not going to stay. I'm leaving. She began an argument. I tried to leave. I had my son in my arms with the cell phone. She wouldn't let me leave. So I said, you know what, I'm leaving. I'm leaving my son. I put my son down in the crib. At that time, I dropped the cell phone in the crib without knowledge when I put my son down. I tried to leave. She blocked the doorway. I kept on explaining to her, move, I want to leave. I'm not staying, I'm out. She didn't want to let me. So then I barged through. She had her arms spread out against the doorway, holding me, not letting me go. So when I barged through so I could leave, she scratched her arm. So I left. When I got outside, I went to go call my fiancé.
That is not even
And when I got downstairs,
Ms. Gonzalez, I don't want to hear it's not true again. Do you understand?
No problem.
No, that's not an answer. The answer is yes, Your Honor, I understand. I will not interrupt again.
Yes, Your Honor, I understand. I will not interrupt again.
That's right. Go ahead.
So outside, I went to make an attempt to call my fiancé, and I noticed I didn't have the phone. So when I went back upstairs...
That was stupid.
Because the phone was upstairs.
That was stupid.
I went and I looked for the phone. And
say yes, that was stupid.
Yes, it was stupid. So I asked her if she had the cell phone.
You just gotten out of the house, you pushed her, she scratched her arm, according to you. You leave the cell phone and you go. You don't go back into a confrontational area, sir. That's stupid, Mr. Lopez.
Yes, Your
All right, so you go back upstairs. What happened when you went back upstairs?
When I got upstairs, I asked her, did she have the cell phone? She says, I don't have it. So as I looked through the house, I remembered I had it in my hand when I put my son down. When I looked into the crib, my son wasn't in the crib. I went and found my cell phone under the sheet. Again, I attempted to leave. Again, she blocked my way. I said, just move, then move. At that time, she told me she had called the cops and I was going to be arrested. I said, well, I'm leaving. And outside the door, a lady, which I had never seen before in this building, for the whole year I was living there, had my son. As I attempted to take my son from the lady, 2 female officers were coming upstairs.
What were you taking your son from the lady for?
I didn't know the lady. If I don't know the person, I don't want nobody I don't know having my son in my hands. I don't know what they'll do. So the 2 officers were downstairs. They came, and they brought us all into the apartment. Me, her, and the 2 kids. While we were in the apartment, the officers explained because this domestic problem, they were going to arrest both of us. At that time, they would take both children and put them in child custody. I said, I'm not pressing no charges, I don't want nothing, I just want to go home. My son can stay, I have no problem. At that time, the female officer told me to stand by the door, don't move. So at that time, there was a knock at the door. 2 more officers came, 2 male officers now. We go back inside, she's in there screaming. Next thing you know, all I hear is her mother screaming at me. Jason, I wouldn't do this to you. And she said, why are you doing this? I said, what's going on? The officer said, turn around, and they handcuffed me. Later, when I was taken down to central booking for arrest, I was informed of the charges. It was assault with weapon, child endangerment. They said I put a knife to my son's back. At no time did I ever touch a knife to grab against my son. Because of that, I had charges of an ACS for attempted on my child, and
All right, you were held in jail for 2 days, is that right?
for, almost 2 days. I called my fiance.
All right, the charges were subsequently dismissed when you decided to drop all charges against each other, is that right?
Yeah.
Do you see your son now so regularly?
No.
Why not?
I still can't because she won't let me see my son.
Uh-huh.
It's a struggle for me to see my son.
All right.
And every time we went to family court for me to get a chance to see my son, she made false charges, knowing I was going to get visitation of my son, then I'm arrested.
Okay. I'd like to see first the medical bills that you have as a result of this incident on Christmas Day.
I didn't get to get the medical bills because this happened so quick that I didn't get a chance to get them. So I have my pictures.
Let me see all the papers you have. All the papers.
Your Honor, Judy.
Shh, just a minute.
I have a scar on my left hand.
Just a minute.
And the lady that
Just a
called,
second. These scratches are what you're talking about?
Yeah, I had a scratch.
All right.
I had a hairline fracture in my left hand.
Don't tell me you had a hairline fracture without any medical bills, without reports. Don't tell me about a hairline fracture.
Excuse me, Judge.
I'll get to you in a minute.
Thank you.
I have a few questions for Ms. Gonzalez. The police officer who took this report took your statement, is that right?
Yes, and on the statement,
I'm speaking. The police officer who took the report took your statement, and he read the statement to you, is that right?
yes, he did.
And after he read the statement, he asked you if it was accurate, is that right?
Yes, he did.
And you said it was accurate, is that right?
That's right.
And you signed it.
Yes.
And you wouldn't have left out anything vitally important, is that right?
No.
So I'm going to read what you wrote in the statement.
I didn't write that. The officer.
What I don't care whether you wrote it or the officer wrote it. I just asked you whether he read it to you and whether you signed it. You said yes.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jason Lopez says ex-girlfriend Suhey Gonzalez had him falsely arrested for domestic abuse. Suhey claims Jason slammed her hand in a door and held a knife to their son's throat.
All right, Ms. Gonzalez, I'm going to read what you wrote in this police report. It says, at the time and place listed above, the perpetrator, that's him, who was the victim's common-law husband, had grabbed the victim by her throat, choked her, at which time he forced her left hand between the door and the wall and repeatedly slammed the door on the victim's hand, causing substantial pain and swelling to the victim's left hand. That's what this says, okay? Now I'm going to tell you what you wrote in your answer. When I told him to leave, he grabbed our son and tried to take him. When I tried to stop him, he pulled a knife out and held it to my son's neck. He said, if you don't let me take him, I'll kill both of us.
No, they didn't write it in the police.
They wrote nothing about a knife threatening to kill himself, threatening to kill this
Yes.
child. You know why they didn't write that down? Because you didn't tell them that.
Is that you?
No. Because you didn't tell them that.
All right,
at the
I
time.
didn't tell them exactly at the time.
Right, at the
Because
time-
they had me in a separate room.
Hey.
They had him outside.
Just a second. At the time, you didn't tell them that he took out a knife, he held it to the baby's throat, he threatened to kill the baby. You told him that he hurt your hand and your hand was in pain, not that he threatened to kill your child. You made that up later.
No, I did not.
Oh, yes, you did.
Oh, no, I did
Oh,
not.
yes, you
They
did.
knew that he was the one. Can I say something?
yeah,
now?
yeah,
All right.
yeah,
In
yeah,
that
you did.
police report, the lady signed. She's the one who signed right next to the statement, not me, because I didn't call the cops because he broke my phone And that's why. I didn't call the cops. The lady from my building called the cops. She's the one who had both of my kids because my oldest was crying. She's the one who called the cops.
Okay.
I didn't get a chance to call the cops.
Here we go.
Because he wanted to take my son, just like he took my son 3 weeks ago.
Let me explain
and
to you
kidnapped
what
my son.
got you angry, Miss Gonzalez. I've been in this business a long time. He's at your house. According to your answer, he told you a couple of weeks before or a month before he didn't want to have, I'm
17.
speaking, that he didn't want to have anything to do with you anymore. He had a new girlfriend. Clearly, he has a new girlfriend. All right?
Excuse me.
I'm speaking. I'm speaking. He comes over to your house, right? According to your answer. You open up the Christmas presents together. It's all a nice family situation. You ask him to watch the kids while you go take a shower. This is what you write here. When you come out of the shower, you hear him on the phone with his girlfriend. I'm not saying that that's what happened to her. I'm saying that that's what she wrote in her answer. That makes one very angry.
Of course.
Of course. Of course that makes you very angry because there you're here with him, with a new baby. He's taking care of the baby's presents. He's in your house Christmas time, and he's going to say goodbye to you, and he's going to go to girlfriend number...
And it was just a week that we had broken up.
Fine. So you're really angry. The knife was a nice touch. He wasn't arrested with a knife. He wasn't arrested with a knife.
All right.
You know what I'm talking about.
And I
you know what I'm
happened.
talking about.
And I know what happened.
Yeah,
And I know
I know.
exactly what happened. Because he tried to take my son. He tried to take my son.
Just a second. What do you mean?
That's how... Who called
Hey,
my mother?
Miss
Who called my
Gonzalez.
mother? The lady?
Miss Gonzalez.
That called the cops?
Miss Gonzalez. Is he the father?
Yes, he's the father. And I'm
You
not
sh-
saying that
I'm
he's not.
speaking. Is he the father?
Yes.
Then you have no greater right to this child than he does.
But he
Duh.
kidnapped my son for
Duh.
3 weeks.
You can't kidnap your own child unless there's an order
This
of
is
custody.
recently. We've been going through this. I just want to go on with
What
my life.
I'm
I want
telling
him
you-
to go on with his life. If he wants to
Listen.
see his son, he's more than welcome to
Listen.
see his son.
Miss
I have nothing
Gonzalez,
wrong with that.
these-
But
I'm
he cannot
speaking.
see his son
I'm
because
going
he
to
has
say
order
1, 2, 3.
protection.
Then they're going to put you out. When you claim that you were severely assaulted, and the best picture that you can come up with is a picture showing me 2 scratches on your arm. 2 scratches. That's what they are. No hairline fracture, no hospital records, no... Well, all right. This was an argument. And unfortunately, because the police take domestic violence seriously, as they should, they got to arrest somebody.
And I lost my securities license.
Mr. Lopez, you do not get an A+ for smarts. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Ah, you don't get an A+ for going back for a $39.99 cell phone after you have already had an altercation with her, and you were out of the problem. You were outside.
Because he never
You
went
go.
outside.
Excuse me?
Because he never went outside.
Because
That's why.
you wouldn't let him go outside, Miss
No,
Gonzalez,
because
because
he was
you
trying
were
to kidnap
so
my son.
angry.
He was trying to take my son. And he's devious like that, that he would take my son and leave. Just like he did 3 weeks ago. And that's why he was going to get rearrested. I had to get the cops to come get my son from his house.
You keep saying my son.
Because he's my son. Because he don't pay no child support. He doesn't do nothing.
What do you do for a
he
living?
He hasn't done nothing.
What do you do for a living?
I was working.
What do you do for a living now?
Nothing.
Who supports the child?
I do.
No, not if you're not working. You get welfare?
Yes, I do.
If you get welfare, then I support your son. You think I should take him?
Yeah, but I was
Just a
working.
second, just a second. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? He doesn't support his child, and you don't support your child. I support your child. So that mean that I should get custody? Don't be ridiculous. All right, Ms. Gonzalez, you keep saying, it's my child. He's taking my child. He's entitled to see his child. It doesn't sound to me like he's too bright.
just stopped working,
because he went
so-
from this child, you're going to have another child? You keep rubbing your belly, right?
Yes.
You got enough trouble with one. You're going to make another one?
Yep.
How many more do you have?
That's the only one. The only one coming.
In any event, I read the police report. I read the police report that doesn't talk about a knife to the throat, threatened to kill the child, threatened to kill anybody, and I see 2 scratches on your arm. You also, sir, yeah, you want to play that for me?
Yes, I even have an
Go
audio tape
ahead,
of
let
her
me hear it.
saying-
But I still get over the fact why you had me arrested.
Because I was just upset. Things were going through my mind. I'm admitting I'm sorry.
Oh, so you're admitting that you did get me arrested?
This is why he
With
was-
this chick, because I was with another chick?
No, it wasn't only because of that. It was because of a lot of things, Jason.
Oh, okay. But then why did you tell him I punched you in your face, I choked the out of you?
No, I didn't say that.
Gigi, the DA said that in the court.
Mr. Lopez, I didn't even have to listen to that. I mean, I've heard this, I've been around this business now for 27 years, right?
Yes.
And I know, when I read your papers, I see her affect, right?
Yeah.
And I know exactly what happened. That doesn't mean that you were smart, A, as I said, to go back to the cell phone, B, to get a telephone call from your girlfriend. Tell your girlfriend, don't call me until I call you. I don't want to create any more problems with her. I'm going to open presents with the children. Don't call me. That creates a problem.
We had already opened the gifts. This was around the time I was getting ready to leave.
She shouldn't have called you, and you shouldn't have spoken to her. Say, this is a tacky problem. I don't want there to be any problem with her. Don't call me. I'll be there. I'll be home when I'm home. And the reason she called is because it's a little territorial. She's not so happy either. You're going over to visit mother number one. She's going to be mother number two. You know, you got to be
She
smart.
wasn't pregnant at the time.
2 months later. Wow,
Now
big
she
difference.
is. Now she is, right? And on your security job, you can hardly afford to pay for yourself.
I don't have work.
Listen to me, sir. When you had a security job, you could hardly afford to pay for one child. Now you're going to have two. Did you pay for a lawyer? No. They gave you a free lawyer.
Yes.
You spent a couple of days in jail.
Yes.
You shouldn't have.
And so did I, because he falsely arrested me.
For what?
He said that I made phone harassment. On June 30th, he called me. I have the phone records for that. He called me with my own phone card that he rung up. He falsely arrested me on June 31st. I got arrested. I made the report on June 30th. As soon as the time right after he called me and called them and let them know that he was calling me and harassing me. And he called me with my own phone card. And right after that, he calls his girlfriend and his mother.
No. No.
Ms. Gonzalez, your counterclaim is for the assault that you claim he perpetrated on you
And
on
false
Christmas
arrest.
Day.
It says it on the paper.
And according to your complaint, you are filing for injuries and damages due to the alleged assault. Okay? You do say somewhere in your answer that he filed false charges, but the damages you are requesting are for the assault. And I don't find that he assaulted you, so your counterclaim is dismissed. The only thing that I have to consider now is whether there was an argument and whether, as a result of false statements that you made and continue to make and continue to embellish to the police,
Not me,
that
because
I'm
I wanna go on with my
speaking.
life. He's the one
I'm
who brings me here.
speaking.
For what?
He brought you here
For what?
because you.
He keeps calling me and harassing me.
Listen to me. He's known you a long time. I've met you now for about 15 minutes, and I don't think he's crazy. And I wouldn't precipitate phone calls and contact with you because I think that you're an angry lady. I think that you feel as if he jilted you, that he left you high and dry with your baby, and now he's got somebody else. All of those things, doesn't pay child support, you're not working, but that doesn't give you the right to have him arrested and make false allegations, which I believe that you did, and I'm awarding him $1,000 on his claim. That's all. By the way, she doesn't have your entertainment center.
Yes, she
That's
does.
all.
Your Honor, when we went there, the officers
Goodbye.
explained.
Well, here's our excuse. You may step out.
I'm happy that finally the truth came out, that somebody actually really knows what happened.
I just want to go on with my life. This is a closed chapter in my life, and I'm going on with my life.
She started this whole mess, nobody else but her, and then she has the nerve to get all upset.
I hope he goes on with his life and start paying child support and give me back my son's stroller that he stole for her new baby.
Please,
And
I
that's
already
it.
have one, honey.
Yeah, right. So you know what? Shove it up your plain and simple.
Oh, you're so classy.
My son is my life. I would never do anything to harm my son.
Go on with your life.
He wants to take care of the child. He doesn't want to be with you. When Amanda says he doesn't want to be with you, just leave it alone.
Keep him up.
Reginald Joyner is suing his former live-in girlfriend, 45-year-old waitress Karen Lopez Leon, for the return of furniture and an air conditioning unit. Karen is countersuing for the return of a car and emotional distress.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 323 on the calendar in the matter of Joyner versus Lopez Leon. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Sir, have a seat, please.
Mr. Joyner, according to your complaint, you and the defendant lived together for about 6 years.
Yes,
You have one child together,
that's correct.
and the defendant has 4 other children.
That is correct.
How old is the child that you have together?
4.5, almost 5.
You and the defendant had a problem. You claim it was over her other children, and she had you ejected from the house. And you left some furniture that you had purchased as well as an air conditioner. You want that stuff back. The defendant, first of all, says it's her furniture, and she has a cross complaint for something that she's going to explain to me. Quite frankly, I don't understand. Mr. Joyner, when were you removed from the house, sir?
It was April 11th.
What kind of work do you do, sir?
I'm in retail sales, ma'am.
What do you sell?
I sell furniture at this point, Your Honor.
Did you have anything to do with the furniture in question?
Yes, ma'am, Your Honor.
What did you have to do with the furniture in question that was purchased?
The furniture that I purchased, Your Honor, I was told was going to be a limited edition. So I purchased it knowing that it was going to be discontinued and no longer available at a certain point. So
Well, that does make it more valuable, sir.
Well, to me. No, maybe not
No,
to
no.
you, but sentimentally to me, of course.
Don't talk to me about sentimental over a sofa. You know, cars are in a limited edition. They'll have a piece of artwork where they only make 25 prints. But the fact that they're discontinuing a line of furniture usually means that you can get it cheaper, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Cheaper I know about, Mr. Joyner. All right. When was this furniture purchased?
This furniture was purchased approximately 3 years ago, Your Honor.
So you were living together at the time. You had been living together for 3 years when it was purchased. What furniture is it, sir?
I have an air conditioning unit that,
that's
that
not
I
furniture.
replaced that the landlord wouldn't replace. I have a sofa, love seat, chair, 7-piece dinette set, double pedestal ball and club. And there is bedroom furniture, you know, but that's not what I'm here for.
Okay.
Just certain
Now,
items.
did you and the defendant move into this home together?
Yes, we did, Your Honor.
Were you working at the time?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a waitress.
Now, I assume that if you'd been together for 3 years and you're running a household, that there was furniture already, sofa, couches, something to eat on, before you purchased this furniture.
Well, Your Honor,
The answer is either yes or no. Was there other stuff?
Yeah.
Your Honor, yes and no.
Sir, listen to me carefully. You lived together for 3 years with 5 children and 2 adults. What I'm asking you is, was there a sofa and chairs and a table and chairs to eat on for the 3 years that you were together before you purchased this furniture?
Well, she had a love seat that was left over from one of the family rooms in her home that was dilapidated completely.
I don't care if it was dilapidated. That's
Yeah,
not what
well-
I asked you, Mr. Joyner. What I asked you was there furniture in the living room? I don't care what kind of condition it was in.
No, Your Honor.
So there wasn't. So you sat on the floor in the living room.
Your Honor, the sofa, the love seat was on the floor.
Fine. I don't care what was on the floor.
Yeah.
It was hanging from a chandelier. There was something in there. And what did the 7 of you sit down to eat on?
A small dinette set, temporary situation type, you know.
3 years. Right?
Yes.
Now, what happened when you purchased all this new furniture?
Well, I have family dinners, holiday dinners like Thanksgiving, Christmas at the house there. And for my family to come over to be uncomfortable was getting pretty embarrassing. And as time went on, I saved and worked and got the house furnished.
All right. Do you get support for your other children?
Yes, I do.
From whom?
From their father.
How much child support do you get?
$315 a month.
$315 a month.
$15 a month, yes, ma'am.
And how much was the rent on the place where you were living?
At that particular time, I believe it was $550.
Who paid the rent?
It was not always the same person.
It had to be him because you didn't have enough money to pay the rent. Had to be him. Right?
No.
Oh, no. Had to be him. You have 4 grown children that you were feeding, clothing, taking care of.
2 of my children don't live with me. They're on their own. This is one of them right here. And another one has his own family. He's married and has his own children.
Well, how many children were living in the home 3
3.
years ago?
My son with Mr. Joyner and 2 from a previous marriage.
I object, Your Honor. At one point, her son that's over here, Mr. Roberto Lopez Leon, moved into the household. It's a story. I mean,
I don't want to hear the
Yeah,
story.
yeah, well,
I don't want to hear the story.
I mean, you know,
I don't want to hear the story. If you're
Okay.
telling me that he started the problem, I'm looking at him. I could tell that that's probably what happened.
thank you.
All right, let's talk about this furniture. How much did you pay for
Your
the
Honor,
furniture?
I paid approximately $3,000 for this furniture.
I have paperwork that proves otherwise. Is that possible?
Oh, I'm going to see that in a second.
Yes,
First, he's
please.
going to tell me. How much did you actually pay for the furniture, sir?
Your Honor, I paid $3,000 less, 30%, $2,700.
Mr. Joyner, shh, stay there.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Joyner, I never want you to assume that I'm stupid. You may think that other people are stupid, but I'm not stupid. We understand each other, sir?
I do.
First of all, give me that thing that he just took out to show me how much he paid for the furniture, so I can torture him a little bit more.
Now, I don't have the receipt for the air conditioner and for the...
I don't care about an air conditioner.
I understand.
I'm asking you about the furniture, sir. How much money did you actually pay for the furniture?
$2,700.
Okay, now you have information that is
Yes,
to the
ma'am, I
contrary.
do.
I'd like to see it.
Okay. Should I walk up there or
No,
does he take it?
Earl will get it.
Can I explain it to you?
if it requires explanation.
Okay. This is a joint account that Mr. Joyner and I had. I had recently got an income tax return check. I had made a deposit. This is a copy of my income tax, which shows the deposit in my account, as well as a transaction on this page, which says that the money that was paid for this furniture actually came from my income tax deposit.
That was the last deposit she ever
Just
made,
a
Your
second.
Honor.
Listen to
There
me.
we go.
I asked you for one thing. And the one thing that I asked you for was how much the furniture cost.
It's $1,600, I believe. It's on the second page of the bank statement, ma'am. That's how much, in actuality, I paid for that
There you
furniture
go.
myself.
She doesn't know.
I paid for that. I made the deposit for it. It was
No, you
on
didn't.
that.
What you were doing is you set up a joint account, and each of you were putting money in that account. There's no question in my mind that he was putting in more money in the account than you were, if in fact you put in any money at all. Put your hand down, sir. I don't believe anything that you tell me because you tried to get over on me once.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Reginald Joyner says former live-in girlfriend Karen Lopez Leon needs to return his furniture and air conditioning unit. Karen says Reginald needs to return her car.
Madam, you also have to understand that if you're not paying any of the bills and you manage to put together a couple of bucks and it's used to buy furniture, that doesn't mean the furniture is yours. That
Ma'am,
means that if the household bought furniture, the household bought furniture.
Is it okay if I say something? It's in reference to the fact that this is a malicious suit anyways. I had a protective order filed against Mr. Joyner on the 9th of April. He was removed from the house on the 11th due to the fact, excuse me, I'm talking. Due to the fact that I've had so many problems with excessive drinking, I've been assaulted, I've had numerous problems with him mistreating my children. At one particular time, he actually threw out food that I bought to give to my children. He threw out all the food that belonged to my children that came from a previous marriage, not the food that belonged to our child together. That shows his intent.
Look at me.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
You lived with him for 6 years. What do you want from me?
All
What
I
do you want
want
from me?
is my purchase that I bought with money.
Just
We
a
started a
second.
joint account.
No. Listen to me.
Yes, ma'am.
Get it together.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
didn't buy it yourself. Neither did he buy it himself. You had set up a home. You have a child together. You lived together for 6 years. If what you do is you separate, you try to equitably distribute the property that's there. If you can't and you want to keep the furniture, then you got to pay something for it. You don't get it back. Furniture depreciates over a 3-year period of time. If, in fact, you paid $2,700 for it, if you went to sell it today, maybe it would bring you $1,500. You're only entitled to half of that anyway, sir. You were living as a family. And whatever money came out to pay for this furniture came out of a joint bank account.
I'm sorry, but
You
I paid the bills in that house because he had an excessive drinking problem and
You
was not
didn't
responsible
pay
with
for
money.
them, madam, out of the money you were earning or out of your child support of $300 a month.
I do it now, ma'am, and I have money on to save without him. When he's
Well, I
removed
think
from the
that you
house,
ought to write a book.
I feel like it.
I think you ought to write a book and tell
I feel
everybody
like
how
I'm
to do
speaking.
that.
This is, for example, this will show you the extravagant way Mr. Joyner lives with the bills that he left me when I left, and I paid every single one of them,
I
ma'am.
work hard, Your Honor.
And
Just a
if
minute,
you could
Mr.
please
Joyner,
see this.
I am not impressed with you. Listen to me. You're entitled to a couple of bucks back for the furniture that you left because it's the only thing that you took with you when you left. You want to tell me about your counterclaim, madam? Your counterclaim is about 2 things. Your counterclaim says that he tortured you with regard to your schooling.
Yes, ma'am.
And he used to hide
Essentially
keys
what
from-
happened is he had bought me a vehicle, and what he would do if he would get angry at me or for whatever reason, he didn't really need a reason. He wanted to control me. He wanted to go ahead. What he would do is take the keys to the car. I couldn't get to work. I'd have to take a taxi to work. I couldn't get to school, or I had to call people to go ahead and take me there. My countersuit is only the extent that what happened is that due to the fact that I could not get to and from my schooling, I failed a class because it was only met once a week. And he would never let me have the vehicle to do so, to go to class, and I failed it. Now I have to reimburse them for tuition.
How old are you?
I'm 45, ma'am.
If you're 45 years old and you want to get to a class badly enough, you get to a class. Stop blaming everybody else for your problems. It's a ridiculous countersuit. Your cause of action against him is that he hid the keys to the car as a method of controlling you. You couldn't get to your class, therefore you failed
Or
your
work,
class.
and I lost
Or
money
your
then.
work, and you lost your job. And
I
it's
didn't lose
everybody
my
else's
job. No,
fault.
ma'am, I did not.
All right, so stop with the nonsense. You owe him $750 for the furniture. That's his half of the furniture with what I consider reasonable depreciation. Period. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
If you have no boundaries and no discipline and you're 45 years old, you got a problem.
He had actually made the statement to me, I brought you here in this apartment, I'm going to take you out.
15-year-old Doug Waller are suing 42-year-old assistant football coach Brad Zarbach for assaulting Doug during a football game. Brad says he was just breaking up a fight.
Come to order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. Now, this is case number 376 on the calendar in the matter of Waller versus Zarbach. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Gentlemen, have seats, please.
Mrs. Waller, this is your son. What's your first name?
Doug.
What?
Doug.
Doug. Doug was playing football on the 27th of October of this year, and according to you, during the course of the game, he was assaulted by the defendant, who was the coach on the opposing team.
Yes.
You want the defendant to pay for all of his medical bills and for punitive damages as a result of that assault.
Yes, ma'am.
The defendant says it was your son who was way out of line and that he did not assault him. He merely tried to negotiate a confrontation that was going on that was really, at least in part, precipitated by your son. Fair statement?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you were involved in an altercation. Is that right, Doug?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me what happened.
There was a fumble in the football game, and
Now, I want you to understand something before we go any further. This is what I know about football.
okay.
The only thing I know about football is it interferes with Sundays, and they don't run around bases. So don't get technical with
All
me.
right, a fumble is where the person carrying the ball drops the ball, and that means everybody is scrambling around to get the ball. And so there was a pile, and I was on top of a kid, and he said, let me
You were
up.
on top of the pile.
Yeah, well, I was like in the pile on top of another young man. And the kid said, let me up and I'll kick your butt or something, because
Okay.
yeah. And so when I was getting up, I got pushed from the back, and then me and another kid started fighting.
That's not true.
She just said, want to
And-
get to you in a second.
And then
So you pile on this pile, because I've seen that. How many people were under you on the pile?
I think only just the one kid that said, let me up.
Now, the kid that was right under you was on top of another kid. Is that right?
I don't think so. I think
Yes, that is true. Your
Just a second.
I think
Well, if you fumble and somebody's got the ball, I know this much. Somebody's holding on to this ball, you know. Is that right?
That's right.
And then somebody is on top of them because they've gotten them down. Right?
That's right.
Okay. So that sounds more right to me.
Okay.
So you got somebody from your team that's got the ball underneath.
Yeah.
See, I'm picking
No.
up this game.
That's from my team.
From
My team
your
recovered the
team,
fumble. Yes, ma'am.
and then somebody from his team was on top.
The guy, our quarterback, was under the bottom of the pile, and 2 or 3 players from his team were in the pile, and he was the last guy on top of the pile.
He was the last guy on top of the
He
pile.
was the last guy on top of the pile.
Does that sound right to you, Doug?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Now, just so that I can understand this, you already got a lot of guys on this pile, so the ball's not going anywhere.
Right.
Why do you jump on top of the pile?
It's just, it was going somewhere when I jumped on the pile.
No.
No,
There
that's
were a lot of people on top of the pile, so it wasn't going on. You just jump up on, because I've seen that, a bunch of morons jumping on top of a pile until it gets to be very high. So you just jump on to jump on. Yeah.
Along with
And the person below you said, get off of me, and then there was a fight.
Yes, ma'am.
So what happened as a result of that fight?
When we started fighting, he came
Why
up-
were you fighting, by the way?
Ma'am,
We're going to get to you.
okay.
We're going to get to you. Because we're going to refresh Doug's recollection if he can, because, Doug is how old?
15.
They got a lot of testosterone when they're 15.
Yes,
Sometimes it interferes with memory.
That's true.
So my question is, why were you fighting?
Because when I was getting up off the pile, a kid pushed me from the back.
Do you know who that was?
And it shows it on the tape.
Just a second. Do you know who that was?
No, I don't know.
All right, so he pushed
I
you.
do.
And what happened as a result of being pushed?
Me and another kid off the opposing team started fighting.
Not the kid who pushed you.
No.
This is all such an intelligent game. So somebody else pushed you and somebody from the other team, and you started to fight.
The one that said, get up, and I'm going to kick your butt.
Okay. And so the two of you were fighting. Punching each other?
Yes.
No, ma'am. There's no punching by my guy.
I'm going to get to you. Punching each other? What else were you doing to each other?
I'm pretty sure we just punched at the start.
Where were you punching each other?
Everywhere. Just-
Everywhere. And then you say the defendant came up.
yeah.
And what did the defendant do?
He grabbed me by my face mask and
yanked me down to the ground, and then I was punched in the back. Right
Well,
here.
who punched you?
I think him. He was
But you don't know.
Absolutely not.
Just a second. You don't know who punched you.
The tape shows a struggle of some sort.
Just a second. I'm going to look at the tape. I'm asking him questions. He pulled you down by the mask, by that thing that you wear, and got you to the ground. And then somebody hit you when you were on the ground.
Yes.
But you don't know who hit you.
No.
He was still standing over him.
You were there, I assume, at the game. And then what happened?
And then the police officers went out and got like all the players out of there and started talking to my dad, and then that was pretty much it. Everybody left.
Well, let me ask you this question, Doug.
Okay.
Before I look at the tape and before I hear the defendant, do you think you did anything wrong that day?
Yes.
What did you do wrong?
Instigated a fight, probably.
Reacted to another child.
Don't speak. You instigated a fight. And what do you think the defendant did on that day?
Assaulted me.
Did he try to stop the fight?
I guess.
Yes, ma'am.
Did he try to stop the fight?
Yeah.
Now, do you think that if someone hadn't intervened, you and this other boy would have continued to fight?
Probably not. Because after that, everybody was out on the field. They had police officers and everything, so.
And who do you think started all of that?
Just me getting pushed in the back.
Listen, they play football and they slam into each other. They slam and they body slam and they jump on top of piles and everything else. And you got pushed.
But the play was over.
Just a second. You got pushed. Did you fall down and break anything when you got pushed?
No, ma'am.
Somebody just gave you a shove. You didn't even lose your footing, right?
I fell forward, but I didn't.
You didn't lose your footing. You lurched a little bit. And then the fight was on. And then you were hurt.
Yes.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 15-year-old Doug Waller says opposing football coach Brad Zarbach assaulted him during a game. Brad says Doug started a fight with one of his players.
You were hurt? How were you hurt?
I was pulled down to the ground and punched.
Well, I heard that you were pulled down to the ground, and that he did, and he acknowledges that he grabbed you by your mask and immobilized you. We don't know who punched you.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me about the injuries that you sustained.
I have a.
Do you have a physician's report?
I'd like to see it, please.
I don't know what they're called.
Also, our doctor bills.
I'd like to see the report first. And I assume that October 27th was the last day you played football.
Yes, ma'am.
That's probably a real good thing.
May I say
Chess
something?
may be a good thing. Yeah, I'm going to let you say something as soon as I hear the defendant. Okay, let me hear what you have to say.
In a nutshell, Your Honor, I'm a state licensed EMT. I fixed kids that were hurt, and on this particular play, the number 6 on their team was hurt through the struggle of the fumble. And I was running out to the field. This kid was laying down, and he wasn't moving.
You mean the kid under the pile?
Yeah, he was kind of on the bottom. One of the kids on the bottom of the pile. He was on from their team.
Speak slowly.
He got hurt in the crashes. I mean, everybody who's in the fumble gets, often there's injuries that happen because of top of the head collisions.
So you ran out.
So I ran out, and I just got to the kid, number 6 on their team, to try to help him and figure out what was wrong. And then as I stood up, the number 6 got up and went away. And I guess he was all right. As I stood up and looked, I saw the defendant turn around and just start punching the quarterback. And there wasn't much of a fight because the quarterback was laying on the ground and he couldn't punch anybody. He was just trying to probably cover himself up. And at that time, I grabbed his face mask.
You mean he was standing up and punching him?
Yeah, the defendant was standing up and punching the guy on the ground. And the videotape shows that clearly. But there wasn't much of a fight because he was just beating on this poor quarterback of ours. So I got there. I thought, man, what do I do with this kid? I mean, look, he's well on his. I don't want to have 2 people to work on. So I
grabbed him by his face mask.
Grabbed him by his face mask. And face masks are engineered. Can I tell you a bit about face masks?
Don't tell me the whole thing. If you put your hand there, you can pull him down.
Yeah, you can pull them down. But also, they're engineered to stop at the breastplate of the shoulder pads so your head doesn't ever get hyperextended, so you don't ever have any problems. It's one of the designs of a football helmet, and that's why I brought it. Because this is pretty close to his football helmet. It just comes down onto the breastplate, so this doesn't hurt anybody to do this. And if you want me to show you on some...
Don't show me, I understand. He doesn't claim that he was hurt as a result of having this done to him. He says he was punched.
Yeah, well, I didn't punch. So what happened, I got him on the ground, and I said, stop it, stop it, stop it. And then Coach Mathis came out, and grabbed me and said, get off the field. So I let go of his face mask, grabbed it, picked up our quarterback, and ran to the sideline. And that was the end of the incident.
Who's Coach Mathis?
He's the president of the league and a coach.
Are you the coach for which team?
I'm the head coach for
our
Zarbach's team.
For your football team?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, you wanted to say something.
Yes, as the gentleman was saying about the helmet, as he had my son's head down below his knees, that opened up a space between his shoulders and his head mask.
He was
as my
kneeling
son,
down.
my pen, please. As my son came off of the field, he was gagging and vomiting, which generally, unfortunately, as my medical bills say, is generally a head trauma.
He didn't have a head trauma.
A neck trauma, a head trauma. He has a concussion. It's what's written on the doctor's thing. If he had not grabbed my son, he should have been grabbing his own players. That is the referee's job to break up fights, not
I would
this
like
gentleman to come out there. My son this is my youngest child. I have never physically assaulted my children, corporal punishment at all. If somebody was going to do that, he should have done that to his own players, not my son.
Ma'am,
Okay, now, just a second. Now I hear it. Now let me see the tapes.
Well, let me tell you one quick thing, can I? Please?
Yep.
After I got my team to the sideline, his coach had run over into the middle of the fracas, and apparently the defendant decided to bolt, and he started running straight toward me. Now, what his intentions were, I don't know, but he was on full speed. His coach grabbed him around his arms, and so he couldn't catch himself, and slammed him to the ground.
A 100-pound man versus
Just
200-pound man.
Ma'am,
Madam!
He's not a...
Madam!
He was a 200...
Listen, you know, you're not in a kindergarten class now defending your child.
He was a...
Shh! Listen to me. Doug, my eyes. Did your coach come out and restrain you at any point after this?
Yes, ma'am.
Shut up.
Thank you.
When did your coach come out to restrain you?
After the incident was pretty much over.
After
Well,
the
there was-
defendant, listen to me, I didn't finish the question. After the defendant immobilized you and got you to the ground, it was after that that your coach restrained you?
Yes.
Well, where were you when your coach had to restrain you?
Well, most of the teams were grouped together. And
Yes.
I was in my side of the field, and there was still like a little kind of ruckus going on.
So after, you're irritating me.
I'm sorry.
So after this whole thing happened, when you were nauseous and vomiting and everything else, after this, you were continuing the altercation because your coach came out and restrained you.
I vomited after that.
After your coach restrained you or before?
After.
Now, did your coach have to restrain anyone else?
Well, he grabbed kids and got them out of the fight.
Did he have to physically put his hands
No.
around anybody else other than you? So would it be fair to say, Doug, that you were the one who was involved in most of the acting out at that moment when your coach came over to restrain you?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, what were you doing?
Just caught up in the moment.
No, not caught up with the moment. What were you doing when your coach came out to your coach came out to restrain you?
I was running over towards their side of the field.
Running over to do what?
Go after this guy, because
Go after which guy?
Zarbuck.
One of the
or-
To you were going over to the field to assault the defendant.
I was running over there, yes.
Well, what were you going to do?
I didn't really have it planned or anything.
You didn't have a plan. And how far did you run? Point to some place in this room. How far did you run before
Probably
the coach
from
restrained you?
their table to about halfway through my table.
And then the coach got you and restrained you. And other than putting his arms around you, what did he do to restrain you?
Well, he brought me to the ground and then...
Put his arms around you and brought you to the ground. Your coach.
Yes.
Now I'll see the tape. What number are you?
41, right there.
You're just pushed.
Just a second. Can we go back a second, please?
And there's Mr. Zarbach.
Can we go back a second?
I'm not punching him at all.
Now start it. Everybody's getting up.
He gets pushed.
Who's on top now?
That's my coach.
That's your coach?
Yes, ma'am.
And who's on the bottom?
Me.
That's your coach.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there any more on this tape you want me to see? Go ahead. So your coach got you down, threw you down.
If you listen to what the parents are saying.
What?
The parents are speaking in the tape.
I don't care what the parents
how
are saying.
appalled they were and that he came out.
I don't care what the parents are saying. I'm looking to see who's on top of him and who got him to the ground, and it's the coach of his own team. Is there anything else on this tape? No. All right. You have a tape you want me to see?
I do. It's a different angle from our bench. Just shows how he's punching him. You can't see him land on the ground. Just clean.
Now, when your coach got you down here, was that before or after the defendant got you down?
After.
After. Looked pretty healthy to me. Healthy enough for your coach to have to immobilize you. Can I see that tape, please, Bert? Is it all?
Sure.
Thank you.
Judge Judy?
Yeah?
I understand that this same incident has happened where he's gone out and assaulted a child during baseball.
Listen, I'm not
Absolutely
interested.
not.
Not interested.
Oh, my heck.
Not interested. I'm interested in October 27th.
He gets up. That's basically it.
Even the coach was punching that behind you.
Okay. That's it.
Who's on the ground now?
That's him.
That's me.
He lays on him for 22 seconds.
Just a second. That's you on the ground.
Yes, ma'am.
And who's on top of you?
My coach.
Your coach. Your case is dismissed. That's all.
All right, sir, excuse, you may step out.
Well, even on the Mr. Zarbuck's tape, it said something about the coaches were hitting the children.
The kid just started a fight, and, you know, I wish I didn't have to come here and do this. They could have called, and I could have told them what happened.
That was Mr. Zarbuck assaulting my son.
It's obviously not true.
It actually showed him squatting over my son. If you looked at our tape a little closer, it showed him squatting down over him.
The videotape makes it obvious.
That was approximately a 100-pound man versus Mr. Zarbuck, who's probably 200 pounds, if not more.
Their kid started punching, and I just tried to stop from having too many victims to work on during the fight.
At the end of our tape, it also shows parents that are just appalled on the fact that he would go and touch another team member from an opposite team.
That fight could have gone on for quite a few more seconds before anybody else would have got there.
I think he's just about equal to a woman.
I've coached 70 teams of football, baseball, basketball, everything for kids, and I've never had one parent even unhappy, much less something of this magnitude.
Has to fight kids, you know.
I think it's important that parents teach their kids to express their emotions and the things they want in healthy, safe ways, not in physically violent ways. That never solves anything.
You can't take it through the court system. That day I should have just gone over there and made it even myself.
I just hope the kid's happy and he has a long, happy football career, and he's a talented football player.
Be very careful.
Erica Lentz, Anna Newell, and Kelly Kaloje are suing their former roommate, 19-year-old student Michael Conover, for breaking a lease. Michael says he never signed the lease.
All right, Miss King, you and your three co-plaintiffs were in college. You got an apartment, the four of you, and you agreed, according to you, to have the defendant as your fifth roommate. Is that right?
That's correct.
The four of you signed a lease.
Correct.
Is that right?
Yes.
The defendant did not sign the lease. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So the four of you had agreed to share this apartment before the defendant came into the picture.
That's correct.
According to you, the defendant stayed until Thanksgiving when he unceremoniously left, leaving a mess, leaving the heat turned up, leaving beer cans all over, whatever. He left a mess. He gave you no notice. You want him to pay his share of the fifth of the rent for the entire duration of the lease, which is 1 year.
Correct.
And utility bills, et cetera. That's what your lawsuit is.
Yes.
The defendant says he was never on the lease and you were rude to his girlfriend. So that's why he moved out, and if you hadn't been rude, then he would have stayed. That's your defense, right?
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Why did not the defendant sign the lease?
Well, upon contacting...
Fast.
Okay. We contacted him. We told him what the lease was, a year long. We told him he had to go to the office and sign the lease.
But he never did.
He never did.
What'd you let him move in for?
He told us that he would.
But he didn't.
Correct.
And he lived there the entire month of September?
Yes, paid rent, paid utilities.
Entire month of September, entire month of October, and part of November, and you never saw to it that he signed the lease.
He told us that he had taken care of it.
Did you go down and make sure that he took care of it?
Well, the complex told us within the first month, Michael needs to go down and sign the lease. Okay, he didn't sign the lease. We didn't know that. But
okay. Now, ladies, after he moved out, what did you do to try to replace him as a roommate?
We tried to, we couldn't replace him because his stuff is still in his bedroom. He's got
Throw it in the garbage.
We didn't know legally if that was okay because...
I'm telling you, why didn't you pick up your stuff?
I didn't have, all I had was a hatchback and another car to move my stuff. I had
Just a second. Are you telling me that your stuff is still in your room?
I have my bed frame and mattresses, yes.
Oh, sir, then you have to pay rent. What is wrong with you, sir? You move out, and you have to put the apartment in a position where they can at least try to bring down their damages by trying to rent it. You're telling me that you didn't move your stuff because you have a small car?
No,
Is that what you're telling me?
No.
Well, why didn't you move your bedroom set out of there and your furniture?
I moved as much stuff as I could on the day that I moved out, but the reason I didn't get the furniture is because, like, I didn't have the vehicle to get it transported, like, to take it to my new apartment. I didn't want to come back while they were there because I didn't want there to be a confrontation. I didn't want there to be any trouble. So, like, and then I found out that they were suing me, so I definitely didn't want to go in there without anybody's permission to take the stuff. I didn't want to get any more trouble than I already
When
was.
did you ask if you could get your stuff out?
I didn't ask anybody. And I never
So
asked.
then you never asked anybody. So
No.
what you're telling me is you didn't move your stuff out when you moved out because you didn't have a big enough car.
Right.
Jerk. You moved out in November. Did you pay November's share of your rent?
Yes, ma'am.
Did he pay November's share of his rent?
he paid November, yet he still has an August rent that he did not pay. He had a bounce check that he tried to pay. We have.
Did he
bounce
pay
check-
August rent?
No.
So he's behind 1 month.
Right.
So far.
December.
Until the time that he moved out.
Correct.
Okay. How much was his share of the rent?
$220 plus.
Is that correct, sir?
Yes.
$220. November you paid.
Yes.
You didn't pay December. Is that right?
No, I did not.
And your stuff is, your junk is still there.
Yeah.
Your stuff is still there? January, is that right?
Yes.
Now, let's get into February. Have you tried to look for another roommate?
Well, the way our semester system works, we feel that it's impossible now to get a lease because of the semester has already started. People have already signed leases.
We have contacted our apartment complex. They said that every now and then they'll get people who want to sublease for a semester and a summer. We've contacted them, told them if anyone gets in contact with them to let us know, but so far they've had nothing.
Okay.
And Your Honor, we physically can't move his stuff. His
Oh,
bedroom
no,
stuff.
I'm going to take care of that right now. Okay. Okay? Okay, so this is what we're going to do. I'm going to make this very, very fast. Within 3 days, sir, you are to get an appropriate van at exactly noon.
Okay.
72 hours from today, you are to be at the complex to get your furniture. If you are not there, I am going to draft an order that they can take your furniture and donate it to Salvation Army. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand? Yes. Donate it to Salvation Army, give it away, throw it out on the street, call garbage. Anything that's there after 12 o'clock, 72 hours from today, is trash. Or sell it. Sell it. Do you understand? Now, I am giving you ladies rent for the month of August, his share, the month of December, do you understand?
Yes.
The month of January, the month of February, and the month of March. That gives you more than ample time to try to find somebody to fill in for his share of the rent. The fact that they were rude to you, sir, is meaningless to me. You had an obligation. And instead of sitting down like a human being and saying, listen, this is not working out, let's try to find a way to resolve this, you just had a party over Thanksgiving and moved out unceremoniously. That's not the way adults behave. And according to you, you moved into a new apartment, which means that you had been contemplating that for at least more than 72 hours if you found a new apartment. Are you living in the new apartment alone?
No.
Who are you living there with?
With my best friend from back home and his girlfriend.
And what about your girlfriend?
She lives in the villas a couple doors down from where I used to live.
Oh, okay, good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,100. And in addition, the court will draft the order. You have 72 hours to get out your junk. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I did not have a party. There were no beer cans laying around, and I did turn off the heat a little bit because it was cold, and I did stay there over Thanksgiving night, but I didn't have a party.
We're 4 college students. We don't have money to be making up for his immature mistakes.
They were extremely rude. They wouldn't give me my messages most of the time.
We weren't rude. I myself wasn't, and I don't believe they were either.
They were pretty rude. Like, they wouldn't tell them that I called. Whenever I came over, they wouldn't talk to me. They looked at me like, you know, they didn't like me or whatever.
Personally, I think his girlfriend was rude to us. She would come in our house, she wouldn't talk to us, and when she, rarely ever, she wouldn't even look at us.
They acted like they didn't want to.
17-year-old Anthony Nelson and his stepfather, 35-year-old pipe fitter Scott Foster, are suing Anthony's former friend, 15-year-old James Burgess, and his mother, 41-year-old waitress Kim Winters. Anthony claims James took his quad runner without permission and flipped it.
What's your first name?
Anthony Nelson.
Well, that's your first and your second name. But it goes together. Anthony?
Yes, ma'am.
Anthony, you have some sort of a bike. What sort of bike is it?
It's a 4-wheeler.
What's a 4-wheeler?
It's a quad cab. It's like a motorcycle, but it's got 4 wheels.
When did you get that?
Early in January, or late January.
Do you ride it?
Yes, ma'am.
How did I know that? Did you ever have one as a child?
I had motorcycles. They didn't have them back then.
But as soon as you saw it, you had to have it.
Oh, yes.
For your son. Right? You understand that?
Yeah.
All right. Just I don't know if I'm disturbing you.
Guy. No, 3-letter word for insect.
Gotcha. According to your complaint, Anthony, the defendant, this young man, was with you one day, and you were with some other people who also had fathers who wanted these 4-wheelers, who bought them for their children. And the defendant, without your permission, got on the bike, rode it, had an accident with it, and damaged it. You want him to pay, or his mother to pay. That's what this case is about.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not exactly sure what your defense is. That he gave you permission to ride it, and the cost of fixing it was too much, but I'll get to it in a second. How many boys were you out riding with?
There was 4 of us all together, ma'am.
How many boys had bikes?
The defendant had a motorcycle, and the rest of us had 4-wheelers.
So tell me what happened.
We got out of school early, and a couple of my friends and me, we wanted to go for a ride. It seemed like a nice day. We were out riding for a couple hours, and we decided to go take a break.
Was James with you at the time?
Yes, ma'am. He was one of us that was riding with us. We went back to Michael's house, my friend, to take a break. We were in his driveway talking, and the defendant got on my 4-wheeler and took off in reverse without asking my permission to get on it. And we ran out after him, but he was already too far out, and you couldn't hear us because of the motor. And by then, he hit the back brake and locked up the axle and flipped the 4-wheeler over. We ran out to see if he was all right. We picked the 4-wheeler up, looked over it. We talked about it a little bit. He said, all right, I'll pay for the damages, and we'll go and call RTD, that's the dealership. We'll call RTD and see how much it is, and we'll handle it from there.
What parts were damaged?
The plastic was all scratched up. The front steering column was bent. The whole brake assembly was ruined. We had to replace that. It wasn't rideable. You couldn't ride it.
So you got an estimate?
Yes, ma'am.
From the place where you would purchase the bike?
Yes.
Can I see the estimate, please?
Here's a letter stating that it was in brand new condition. Here's the repair order, and here's what I actually bought so that we could continue to ride it.
Entire cost of repairing the bike is $918?
Yes, ma'am.
What's $1,027.11?
That was for my time off of work. I took a day off, or half day off, when I figured we were going to court, and my labor's a lot cheaper than theirs.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Okay, let's hear you.
Ma'am, I did have permission to ride the 4-wheeler. We were all sitting in the driveway. We were standing talking around. Mike just got back from riding it. Mike took it down the road, come back. I go, Anthony, can I ride it? He goes, hold on 1 minute, let it cool down. A few minutes later, I asked him. He said yes. I was backing down the driveway. I hit the rear brake, and the 4-wheeler came back. I jumped to the side of the 4-wheeler.
You damaged the bike, right?
Yes.
So why shouldn't you pay for it?
I feel it was equal responsibility on both parts.
Why is that?
I've had people blow my stuff up. I got a YZ-125 in '96, and I've had people blow it up, and I've always replaced everything anybody else.
Then you're a good guy. But if you borrow somebody's car and you wreck it, And unless there's insurance that covers it, it's your responsibility.
Yes.
The fact that he said that you could drive it doesn't relieve you of that responsibility. You want to say something?
Yes. The main reason we're here is from the discrepancy in what was supposed to be wrong with the four-wheeler. They went to my house, they called RTD, said it was just the clutch lever, or brake lever, and it was $87.
They called and said, this looks like it's wrong with the bike, right?
Yes.
And they said, well, if that's all that's wrong with the bike, and it's $87.
Yes.
But clearly when they took the bike down there...
Can I say one more thing?
Sure, there turned out to be a lot more damage to the bike.
He came to my house, the father and the son came to my house a few weeks afterwards with an estimate of $400 and some. And he said, your son did this, will you pay it? And I said, what happened to the $87? And he got mad, upset, and I said, no, I won't pay the $400 and whatever dollars it was. So he went to go out of my driveway. He threatened my son.
He threatened to beat my, or his exact words, he goes, your ass is beat.
He threatened my son, and
that's not
good. At that time, it was $400, $400 and some odd dollars.
Did you ever give them an estimate of $400 some odd
No,
dollars?
I did not, ma'am. I walked to her door to ask her to pay this damages, and her exact words. Sorry.
That's
I'm a little upset.
That's not what I'm asking you. She said that you showed her a bill at one point for $400.
No, ma'am. She wouldn't even look at it. That's the actual estimate I gave her. She wouldn't even look at it.
Well, this is dated March the 2nd, which
Correct.
is shortly after the accident.
Correct.
He must have went and got that after he left my house. What he brought to my house was $400 and some.
What date did he come to your house?
You know what it was?
I'm not exactly sure what date he come to my house, but all the kids at school knew it was $427. And then we got the statement in the mail that was that $900. It's like $1,027.
Okay. Has the bike been fixed?
I fixed the steering part so that we could ride it.
And how much did you spend on the steering?
You have the paperwork
Is that
up
the
there?
second bill?
Yes, ma'am.
$219?
Yes, I believe that's what it was.
All right. And the rest of it has not been done?
No, ma'am.
That's very, very easy. I'm entering an initial order of $219.73. And what you folks will do, since you all live in the same neighborhood, is we'll pick a date. You all go down to RTD Motorsports and satisfy yourself what the bill is. I will enter a maximum order in the amount of $918 to be held until the both of you go down and satisfy yourself what the bill is. Do you understand? Does that sound fair to you? I mean, no, it doesn't sound fair to you. He says he had permission. It's his responsibility. He wrecked the bike. And if he wants to be a good guy and take care of it when other people wreck his bikes, that's up to you. You wreck this one, it's your responsibility. The only difference is the cost of repair. And I don't think that you can exaggerate the cost of repair. And you actually spent $219, that you get. Then 5 days from today, you boys make arrangements with your parents, if necessary, to go down to RTD Motors, see what it's going to cost to fix the bike for a maximum of total $918. And then the court will enter judgment in that amount. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Does that sound reasonable to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Court will draft the order. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I don't believe I said that. I think I said maybe Anthony take care of him later. Yeah, I was upset.
I've had accidents. I've done it on my own four-wheeler and mine.
Eve Beutler for the unpaid balance of the food at her daughter's wedding. Eve says Kenneth omitted certain items from the menu.
Order. All rise. Now, this is case number 384 on the calendar in the matter of Coley versus Beutler. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Folks have seats.
Mr. Coley, you are a caterer.
Yes, ma'am.
And you were retained to cater the defendant's daughter's wedding.
Correct.
You did so according to your complaint. The defendant paid you, and part of the payment was put on a credit card, and then she stopped payment on that portion of the credit card.
Correct. Actually, I did 2 events for her.
You did a wedding and a brunch the next morning.
Yes.
The defendant says that she didn't get what she bargained for, and after she stopped payment on the credit card, she did further evaluation of your services and decided that you weren't even worth what she had paid you, so she is counterclaiming in the amount of $1,442. When was this wedding planned?
The wedding was planned July 1st, 2001.
And when were you retained?
Deposit was made January 20th, 2001.
Do you have the initial contract?
Yes, I do.
May I see it, please? The wedding was to be for 300 people?
Originally, yes, ma'am.
And the total amount?
$12,199.41.
Both for the wedding?
That was for the wedding event. The brunch event was $900.
And how many people were supposed to be at the brunch event?
I believe 60.
You said originally the number of people was 300.
Correct. Ms. Bueller had changed the guest count to 265 approximately 2 weeks before the event.
So far, is that correct?
Yes.
Did anything else happen, sir?
I'll start with June 1st. I made my first visit to the house.
It was to be a home wedding?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Surveyed the property, presented some diagrams. We set up a little plan of what we were going to do. About June the 15th, Ms. Bueller called and asked me to come back. She had decided to add canopies to the event. I came up on June 19th. We discussed the canopies, where they should go, and I made a few phone calls, and I ordered the canopies while I was at the house that day. And I do have the rental contract for that.
And were you paid for that?
Yes, I was.
Okay. How much was that?
All total for $1,600.
Okay. Go ahead.
Part of my services was that I was going to stir fry the vegetables next to the buffet. By putting up the canopy, I felt that we weren't able to do it. Legally, you cannot have a fire underneath the canopy. And also it makes for a bad situation when you have the walk underneath the canopies.
And you had discussed that with her?
Yes, I did.
What else?
July 1st, everything went okay. There was more than my count. There was more than 300 people there. I had ordered tables and chairs for 300 people.
Why did you order tables and chairs for 300 if she gave you a count of 265?
You always have to have a few extra tables or chairs and plates.
Okay, go ahead.
And I'd like to present my pictures too, if I can.
I'd like to see it, please.
During the time that we set up the party, the night of the party, everything went off well. We ran out of plates. We had to wash plates during the event. By my account, all the seats were filled. We were bringing out extra chairs. There was more than 300 people there. The next day we did the brunch. That went okay. I had the canopies removed. I had all the property cleaned up. That afternoon I settled on the bill. The client paid in full for the brunch. There was no problem. For the dinner event, Ms. Bueller's husband, Earl, had asked for some kind of compensation. He felt he should have had leftover foods after the wedding event. There really wasn't much in the way of leftover foods because I pointed out to him that he had too many people. We had more people than what we had planned for. But anyway, everyone ate. It was an all-you-can-eat meal. The client was very happy. He complimented on how successful we were.
And then they stopped payment on the credit card.
He wanted to give me a $10,000 credit card. It was my understanding they were going to give me a $10,000 check. I agreed to accept a $5,000 check and a $5,000 credit card payment. At that time, I called my office. I had my accounting person run the credit card while we were sitting in his office. We shook hands. Everything was fine. We left. 2 or 3 days later, I got a call from him that he wanted a refund on part of the money because the vegetables weren't prepared correctly, and that over the issue over the dessert station. Within a couple of days, he had called the credit card company and stopped payment in the amount of $1,080. And that's what he said the value of the vegetables and the dessert portion was.
Okay. Now I'll hear you.
First of all, I'd like to say that we paid Mr. Coley everything except for the items that he omitted from our original contract. On our original contract, and the reason why I booked him is because his claim to fame is this great Chinese wok where they flash grill the vegetables with hot pasta. Also, he made me a delicious chocolate brownie because that's part of his dessert station, which is also on our contract. And also on the original contract, you'll see that the canopy and the wok are on the same contract. The canopies he's speaking of have nothing to do with the food, and I have a picture of plenty of areas where we could have put the wok. If I would never have eliminated the wok no matter what. So the whole argument is, number one, he breached the contract. I would have never hired him if I thought that he was going to omit the wok and omit the dessert station for which he charged us.
Just a second. He omitted an entire dessert station?
Yes. Nothing. Not a cookie. I had my whole in-laws there.
There were no desserts?
Nothing.
Were there any desserts, sir?
We had the wedding cake.
Just the wedding cake?
The wedding cake.
What about desserts?
A little background on the event.
No. Just tell me. Was there a dessert station for which you originally charged for 300 people $900? Was that for the wedding cake?
The client paid the amount of $700 for the wedding cake for 300 people. She asked for a reduction in the bill, and I reduced the bill by 10%. And our agreement is if I reduce the bill by 10%, which was $3 a person, that we would omit the dessert station. By reducing the bill down to all-inclusive $26, that's food, labor, beverage.
$26 a person?
Correct. Originally, all of that was supposed to be $31.50. Basically, she said she couldn't afford the event. Same with the canopy, she couldn't afford it.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kenneth Coley says customer Eve Beutler refuses to pay the balance for his catering services. Eve says Kenneth ran out of food and omitted items from the menu.
Did you discuss with her omitting the dessert station?
Yes, I did, very clearly. I even have it in some documents.
Can I see it?
This is the bill right here that says all-inclusive.
The dessert station was optional.
Correct.
I have the statement here, and it's 2618. The dessert station was never optional.
Well, let me see what you have.
I have the same, right here, it's 2618, and it includes the dessert station.
Let me see.
It says right there on it.
Let me see.
It was not optional. It was part of the bill.
No, that's not true. It says dessert station, $3 optional.
Well, we paid for the, do you have the invoice? This is my husband, Earl. He did the financial dealings.
Yeah.
And my daughter, Davia, whom he also promised the dessert station to, and the walk. Those were
Don't tell me about the walk. Listen to me.
Okay, so
you made a wedding. I want to tell you something. You made a wedding for $26.50 per person. You can't get it cheaper anywhere. I don't know where you found this guy, but you ought to clone him. Right?
Your Honor?
And I'm talking. How many weddings did you make?
Just one.
I have a lot more experience. Now, how many people did you have at your wedding?
269, and I have the wedding list here. He set up the tables. He set up 26 tables and the table for the bridal party. There were no more seats for a maximum of 275, and 3 of those tables were set up for wheelchairs. So his statement of over 300 is absurd. We would have had people standing there eating out of their hands.
What caterers usually do is they put out number of plates that they have. Plates. Sometimes when people are having a buffet, they say, well, we can always add a couple of people. 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 people, and there'll be plenty of food. You spend $12,000 for just this part of a wedding. And to be quite honest with you, I don't understand why you would do anything after a wedding to make it unpleasant.
Because we didn't get what we ordered. I would have never gone with him.
So what? You had to walk
Because
out
it
a
was
nice
important
wedding.
for
I'm
my
looking
daughter.
at pictures. I'm looking at pictures. Stop. If your daughter is worried about a walk, and that's what she's worried about at this stage of her life, wait until she has some real aggravation or tsuris. You know what that means?
Exactly what service means, Your Honor.
She's worried about not having an open flame walk at her wedding. If that's what gets her.
Your Honor, we didn't bring this, I know you're aware of this, but we didn't bring this suit to Mr. Coley. I mean,
He brought a lawsuit because you paid him and you stopped payment on his bill.
Your Honor,
what did you expect him to do, roll over?
I contacted him twice. I have the emails. He never responded to my emails. He was saying that, I called him is not true. I emailed him twice. He never responded. I finally, in desperation, contacted
I would like to
the
see
credit
your
card
email.
He gave me 5 days on a holiday weekend before he stopped
I'd like
payment.
to see you.
And further, Your Honor,
read the last line in his email. He says, congratulations, you were very successful. And just please read that last line.
The wedding was very nice. I sent him these emails. When he responded finally, after the credit card company withheld the money, he said, this is the first I've heard of this, which I have also his notes on that.
Just a second. You have any other children for whom you're going to do a wedding?
I hope not. We have 2 other children. Hopefully we won't be doing weddings for
You
their
have
boys.
boys. I just don't understand. So it doesn't matter if you choose a certain buffet and you don't get it, it doesn't matter because it's a nice wedding?
Bottom line?
Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Bottom line, what I'm telling you is, when you plan a wedding that has a lot of different courses, a lot of different foods involved, something is going to be not perfect. But if overall the caterer has done a nice job, and everybody seemed to have a nice time, and the event was uplifting and fun, and everybody enjoyed themselves, and the bride and groom are happy, then you don't do anything to diminish that, by being picky, you may not refer him to somebody else again, although the end of your email says, thanks once again for catering what was overall a very successful wedding. And if it was a very successful wedding, then you don't pick apart the fact that you didn't have, that your vegetables were cooked before they got to the big buffet, if that's what it was. Because it's not a big deal. I'm going to tell you right now, nobody who's planned a wedding says that $3 is going to include an elegant, all-inclusive dessert buffet as well as a wedding cake. I know, I think the last time I paid for wedding cake, it was $5 a person just for the cake.
I was promised what's on the contract. Many times you tried to substitute the vegetable thing, which is, you say is not a big deal.
Stop with the wok. I don't want to hear the wok anymore.
What I'm saying is,
I'm not interested in the wok. Lighten up.
Well,
Are you serious about your counterclaim?
No, I just...
Just a second. I'm getting to the counterclaim.
Yes.
Are you serious about your counterclaim?
Yes,
Let's
Your
hear it. You've got more money that you think he should give back to you. Let me hear.
Okay, part of the counterclaim, Your Honor, is based on the fact that he ran out of food at the brunch. He ran out of, it was lox and bagels, an omelet station, juices, coffee rolls. He ran out of lox and eggs within about the first 10 or 12 guests. So that we were running in the house, bringing out egg beaters, trying to find juice in our freezer, looking for additional food, which we had hoped to have from the leftovers, which he had taken with him. That was part of the counterclaim. I asked for 80% of the brunch fee back.
Well, how many people was the contract for the brunch?
We guaranteed for 60, as the plaintiff claims.
Yes.
I would say about 40 actually showed.
Did you run out of food? You there?
No. The only thing that we didn't have, one person was asking, or actually two people were asking for omelets with whites only. I did not bring any whole eggs. I can tell you, the way that they've done business here, if I would have ran out of food, at any time, they would have taken every dollar of value for it. And plus, on top of this, I have her email telling me that she's given me 8 referrals for doing such a good job. So I can tell you that they're making this up. Did you not say that?
Mr.
I told you, Mr. Coley.
You took back the free.
I told you before the wedding I would have 8 families that are interested in you. So I didn't push anything because I wanted, I just figured you lost business.
Can I just see the email?
Okay.
I'm going to tell you why I don't buy your statement that nobody got fed at your brunch.
No, we
I
just said
didn't
they
say
ran out of
nobody got,
eggs.
they ran out of eggs and they ran out of lox.
That's not true.
Just
And
a second.
juice.
That's
Just a
not
second.
true.
What else? What other food did he have at your brunch?
There were some pastries, some bagels,
Yes.
I think some fruit.
It's the bottom of this page.
What's the date on that?
November
Right?
4th.
Just pay
Right,
attention.
that was before the wedding.
Oh, listen to me. Could you talk?
2 weeks ago.
Could you talk to me? Talk to me.
That email was 2 weeks ago, or maybe a month
That's
ago.
last year.
Doesn't say that after the wedding she referred clients to you. She said that she's unhappy with the way this thing was resolved. But let me tell you why I don't buy your counterclaim. I don't buy your counterclaim because you put a stop payment on the credit card amount after the brunch. And you made a very specific amount. And the very specific amount that your wife told me about was that you didn't get the open flame wok and you didn't get the brownies that she wanted. And that, you said, was $1,980.69. But you had already had the brunch. So if you felt that he hadn't provided the service for the brunch, you would have deducted that amount as well from the credit card.
May I answer that?
Now, I'm finished. Let me finish. Now you want an additional amount of $1,442 because in reflection, you think that he should reimburse that amount too. Now I'll hear you.
Okay, Your Honor. I spoke to Mr. Coley immediately after the brunch. I told him I was upset with them running out of food and that I was upset that he had taken away the leftovers. I did not yet know about the other 2 items. He also said that we had gone over our guarantee.
I believe that that's probably true because, as I said to you, and done buffet kind of weddings and done hors d'oeuvre kind of weddings, and very, very often you say to yourself, you don't need a whole lot of leftover food. She has a few friends coming in that she didn't anticipate. He has a few friends that are coming in that didn't anticipate. Aunt Hattie is coming in. She wants to bring a friend with her. You got another 5 people. You got another 10 people. It doesn't have to cost me another $26 a person. We'll have enough food. I've been around the block enough to know that that's true.
Your Honor, I have the exact wedding count. Also, if you look at the invoice, there's 26 tables of 10, which would seat 260.
Yes.
There was a head table of 16, which would be 276 was the most there was seating for. Is he suggesting then that 25 people were standing?
Just a second. 276 is not 265.
We may have had 270.
Just a second. 276 is not 265.
I agree, Your Honor. And when I spoke to him after the brunch,
people is 11 people times 2650.
I have the exact count, but when I spoke to him,
You got my drift. Answer my question, sir. If you have an answer about your reflection days later, after you had already canceled part of your credit card charge, why you now think he should give you more money.
I spoke to him about the running out of food at the brunch and the leftovers immediately following. He countered with the fact that we had gone over our guarantee. I had not done the count yet, so I agreed we probably had, and we called it a wash at that point. It was not till later that I discovered the walk and the desserts had not been served. I contacted him twice. He never responded.
Just one second. No. You don't try to confuse me. I'm a little bit smarter than you are. Probably a lot. The original complaint that your wife was complaining about was the wok and the dessert tray,
Correct.
not the fact that there were not enough leftovers and that you ran out of eggs. That was what she originally said she was complaining about. The lack of the wok and those wonderful brownies.
Desserts for my in-laws.
I didn't know about those at the point I spoke to
Well,
Mr.
then you
Pillay.
better
It was the day-
communicate better with your wife. Your counterclaim is dismissed. Your claim is granted, sir. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,980.69. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It wasn't devastating, but it was disappointing that things turned out the way they did.
In my experience, weddings are very emotional, and people get tied up in the emotions.
Both my son-in-law and daughter were upset that they didn't get what he had contracted to give us.
I was looking out for their interests. I worked very hard for them.
I would never have hired him without those items.
I gave them a lot of extra attention along the way.
It wasn't a big deal, but I do feel that Mr. Colway should have to act appropriately and meet his contract.
I went above and beyond in every area that I could.
No matter what you order from him, he gives you whatever he...
4-year-old accounts receivable clerk Ruth Ackerman and her daughter, 18-year-old Crystal, are suing Crystal's half-sister, 24-year-old office manager Melissa Peart, and her husband, Tyson Peart. Crystal says Melissa won't return her furniture.
What's your first name?
Crystal?
Crystal, this is your sister.
Yes.
You're the mother.
Yes.
You're the husband.
Yes.
Hers. According to your complaint, there came a time that for some reason you moved into your sister's home with her husband. Had she been living with you before?
My daughter?
Yes. How old were you?
I was 17 at the time. Oh, sorry, 18 in November. I just turned 18.
Why did you go and live with your sister?
I was living at a drug home at the time with my friends, and she suggested that would be the best place for me to
What do
be.
you mean a drug home?
Friends using drugs.
How long had you been living there?
For about a month and a half.
Where had you lived before that?
With my mother.
Why did you move out of your mother's home?
Because I was a rebellious teen.
So your sister did a nice thing. She said, come and live with me.
Yes.
You lived there from November of 2000 until when?
To February. of
And then she
2000.
told you to leave.
Yes.
Why?
Well, we weren't getting along the end of the last month in February and January. Weren't getting along. She did kick me out about 5 different times.
Were you breaking the rules?
Yes.
This lawsuit says that when you left 2 things there. One was a chest and your bed.
Correct.
And you want those things back or their value. Your sister says she held on to them for about 6 months and then got rid of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where did you go after you left your sister's house?
I moved in with a friend into an apartment.
Why didn't you take your chest and your bed?
We couldn't fit it in.
Did you tell your sister that?
Yes.
What did she say?
She didn't say anything. She
Did
was
she
very
let-
silent towards me.
You were angry with her?
I was, Your Honor. I gave her 7 days to move her stuff out.
And this chest and bed, were they in a room that you needed?
Yes, they were.
She doesn't have to keep your stuff forever.
A couple times I was trying to make arrangements with my friends to get a truck to go in there and get my stuff out. Unfortunately, I have no truck. I have a little car, can't fit a bed and cedar chest on top of it.
When did you sell it?
June.
Who did you sell it to?
I sold it to a coworker of my husband's and to a friend.
Okay, how much did you get for it?
Total together, I got 110.
Now, your daughter moved out in February.
Mm-hmm.
Did you call your other daughter in February or March and say, I'm going to come and pick up this bed?
No, we didn't.
Why not?
We actually did tell Crystal that she could store the stuff at our house. We kept telling her to go get the stuff.
And she didn't?
And she did not go get the stuff.
When you moved in with your sister, you lived there for November, December, January, 3 months. Did she support you?
Yes.
You weren't working?
No, I was looking for a job. I had a job when I was living there, and I did lose the job.
So your sister took care of you?
Yes.
So why would you want to sue her?
I just want my stuff back.
She doesn't have it.
Well, I want what she sold. That's my bed, my cedar chest. My cedar chest means a lot. I got it for my 16th birthday from my parents. I mean,
Oh, she sold both things.
it's valuable stuff to me.
She doesn't have them. She kept them in her house for months. You couldn't get a truck. Your mother wasn't talking to her directly. She was talking to you. She could have stored the stuff but never made arrangements. And I assume that you and your other daughter are not getting along for some reason. Is that right?
In the last couple of months, yes. But
that's
prior to her moving out and that, no. We were fine.
Your Honor.
Yes.
And the reason why this pretty much whole thing started, because I found my biological father, and when my grandfather passed away in May, he was asked to be a pallbearer, not my stepdad. So now the family's mad at me because I found my real dad, and they're just vindictive towards me right now.
She found her father 5 years ago. And I knew that 5 years ago, and I accepted that as long as she kept it to herself. Her father signed legal rights for adoption. He wanted nothing to do with her. And within my books of my feelings, he had no rights to her at all. I did tell her, that's fine, but you keep it to your side, your family, that's fine that you've seen your father. I did not need it in my life. I didn't have to have it in my life. My father that passed on was my father. She was only a granddaughter. A funeral is for the people who are alive, not dead. And my father wanted a quiet family funeral, and he was not my family. He might have been my daughter's, but he was not my family. So due to that, yeah, we got a lot of hurt out of it.
It's time for it to be over.
It is. And because of all this, Crystal decided to go get her stuff. I kept telling her to get it. Crystal was sick the day she made arrangements to go get the bed. I went with my daughter, Tracy, to go get it, and she was not home that day. So within 2 days, she had sold the bed, apparently.
But meanwhile, she took care of your daughter. And if the bad feeling that exists now between you and your daughter has to do with her finding a biological parent and involving him in your father's funeral, which is, I assume, what you are hurt about, you have to understand something. When you make choices, you made a choice, you had a child, and so did her biological father at that time, and I assume you were both much younger, but children have a natural curiosity. Children very often have a need to know their biological parents. Even if her adoptive father was wonderful to her, there is sometimes that need. And maybe it was wrong for her to involve her biological father in your father's funeral. I don't disagree with that. But it's over. It doesn't mar something forever. It doesn't mar that.
Your Honor, it wasn't me involving him into the funeral. It was actually my grandfather's wishes. They were very best friends in the past, and within the last 5 years, he begged me to bring him around because my grandpa was on his deathbed. And I brought him around only under my grandpa and grandma's wishes, and it was my grandfather's wishes to have him there. It wasn't me. I had no idea.
Did you tell that to your mother?
I surely did.
I don't
Certainly
believe it. I'm next to my dad on his deathbed. I was about the last one to see him before he went into his coma.
Well, what about your mother? Did your mother tell you that that's what he wanted?
My mother didn't tell me until the day we was at the funeral home making the arrangements of who the pallbearers were. That's
but
when
did
she
your
told
mother
me.
tell you that that was your father's request?
She said, I don't believe her.
Then you don't believe your mother and you don't believe your daughter?
No.
Then you have a problem.
No, because in Christmas time...
No, then you have a problem.
My father said what Melissa was doing was wrong. So why would he found something different?
Maybe it's because that's what he thought you wanted to hear. Why would your mother, who I assume lived with your father for how many years?
30 years.
30 years. Why would your mother do something that she knew was exactly the opposite of what your father would want done at his funeral? In any event, she doesn't have the bed and chest anymore. She sold them. Did you tell your mother you sold them for $120?
I miscalculated. I apologize.
We have the bills of sale.
I have the
Can I
bill of
see them,
sale.
please?
I actually
And the
sold.
rental agreement that Crystal signed.
I have the bill of sale on both of them, and I actually sold them on the 11th of May and the 1st of June. I arranged for pickup on the 4th of June. After I gave Crystal, I talked to her, wanted to give her one last chance to make arrangements to come get it, but she didn't.
You have any problem giving your sister the $110 you got for her things?
I do.
Chris, Missy didn't sell the bed
I want to
for-
explain something to you. This is a non-case. $110 is what she sold the stuff for. You're suing for $600, which is ridiculous. It costs more than $600 to feed you, take care of you, provide you with a home for 3 months, which your sister did, so I have no idea what you're doing here. However, I don't think it's fair that you keep the money for her things, so I'm going to give her the $110. That's it. Do you understand? Instead of saying thank you, you sue her. Ridiculous. Goodbye.
What is our excuse, Miss?
It's really sad to know that they do this to their own family.
Do not want nothing to do with her. She can raise
Oglesby is suing her ex-boyfriend's friend, 26-year-old dental assistant Dominique Magallanes, for kicking her car and terrorizing her kids.
Order. All rise. Yes, this is case number 137 on the calendar in the matter of Oglesby versus Magallanes. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Folks, have seats.
Miss Oglesby, according to the complaint that I've read, on April 21st, you went to your ex-boyfriend's house. You and your ex-boyfriend have a child together, and it was your intention to retrieve some property. You arrive at the house, and the defendant is there.
Yes.
You and the defendant exchanged some words.
Yes, we did.
Nasty words.
Yes.
Why, I couldn't tell you, but you exchanged some nasty words. According to your complaint, the next day, while you were in or around your home, the defendant shows up with someone else in her car. They get out of the car. Your children are in your car.
In the car.
You get in your car because you see her, and she kicked your car and terrorized your children who were in the car.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you want her to pay for A, the damage to your car, and B, for terrorizing your children, right?
Yes.
So you get to the house on April 21st, the ex-boyfriend's house. Who answers the door?
Nobody answered the door, Your Honor. He wouldn't open the door.
How did you become involved with the defendant?
As I was leaving, he came out on the balcony, and I asked him, you know, just let me get the clothing. I need it for my daughter for school. And he...
Just a minute. I would like her out of the room, please. Go ahead.
Okay. He came out on the balcony, and he says, get out of here. You left me for another guy, this and that. And at that time, she came out on the balcony, and I exchanged words with her.
Well, what were the words you exchanged with her?
I just asked her, like, you know, who are you, and things like that. Really was none of my business, but I just asked her. And she didn't say...
But it wasn't nice. You didn't say, who are you?
No.
What is your name?
No, no.
So you were annoyed and nasty and screaming at your ex-boyfriend and screaming at her. And then you left.
Yes, ma'am.
What happened the next day?
The next day I was coming home from a fair in our city, Orange Blossom Festival, and I had my friend with me, and my brother was with me that day. And we had 2 kids in the car, and then we stopped at my cousin's and we picked up my 2 daughters. And on my way home, I witnessed her nephew driving down my street. I was leaving the gates, and I saw him coming into the gates of the apartments, and he was looking at me like, you know, what are you doing here? And I was kind of wondering.
Okay, so nephew. So you see the nephew driving down the street.
Mm-hmm.
And
so I turned my car around because I was going to go to my cousin's house because I didn't know what he was doing on my street. I was kind of a little bit worried. So as I was stopped my car, I got out of my car and I was standing there because he was going to turn around. I thought he wanted to talk to me or something, so I got out of my car.
Your Honor, if I can
just a minute. I thought you said you were driving to your cousin's house because you didn't know what was going on. He was looking at you funny, so what did you get out of your car for?
I got out of my car because I wanted to clear up what happened with me and her the day before on the balcony. I didn't want any trouble.
Go ahead.
So he didn't turn around at the first street. He went to my street, honked the horn, and the defendant came out of my street with her 2 friends in her truck. And I got back in my car because I saw her coming, and my 9-year-old daughter was screaming, bloody murder. My 6-year-old daughter was crying, and they were screaming. She's all, no, Mom, no, Mom. And
what were they screaming for? So far, nothing's happened.
Because that guy, she didn't know what he was doing on my street. And I told my friend, I think that... We
passed the guy. You got back in your car. I thought you told me you got back in your car when you saw the nephew. And then you saw her car.
I saw her come out of my street, okay? And I got back in my car, and I sat there, and I told my friend, call 911, because I didn't know what they were going to do.
Where was your friend?
She was in the passenger seat.
So what happened next?
Okay. So I got back in the car, and by that time, she skidded up in front of my car. Her and two other girls jumped out of the car, came up to my window. My window was halfway down. I said, my kids are in the car, my kids are in the car. And she didn't say nothing, but she said, you're mine. I just seen this foot coming, and then her friend hit my car with a cane, a brown long cane.
Was there a dent on your car?
Yes, ma'am. I have a picture.
Let me see. Uh-huh. Got it. Okay. Estimate.
This is from my insurance company, and this is from the body shop. I had to pay $500, and they paid $315.
So you had a $500 deductible?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
On April 21st, approximately like 4 o'clock in the evening.
4 o'clock is in the afternoon, last time I looked.
Early afternoon, early evening. I was invited over to Carlos's house.
I don't care. You were in Carlos's house.
Okay.
She comes over.
And we were celebrating my birthday. I had nothing to do with, no relationship, honestly, with Carlos. I walked into the kitchen. I heard a knock at the door, and that's when the plaintiff ended up hearing my voice. I said, someone is at your door. And then the plaintiff had knocked twice, this time even louder. And then after that, I was like, oh my God, who is that? He sat there and he told me, oh, that's my baby's mom. And I said, oh, great. I don't want any trouble. I didn't even bring my own vehicle. He went to my residence and he picked me up.
I don't care about this. Just get to what's important, madam. You had words with her. She started screaming. There's no question in my mind that she opened up a big fresh mouth and called you a whole bunch of names when you came outside. On the patio, she opened up a big fresh mouth and then she left.
In a gated community, she entered the residence and then she got on her cell phone and she made numerous calls, which I had called authorities, and Carlos had asked her to leave.
Okay, because she was pretty frightening.
Yeah.
She was pretty frightening.
Right.
So then my question to you, madam, is why the next day do you go to her house?
That is not accurate. The whole scenario of the case is like, it was one day, which was on the 21st. The 22nd is when I went. I got to there's a local gas station. There's another street coming eastbound.
I don't care, just get to
she ended
it.
up coming oncoming traffic with her two children in the vehicle, and she boxed my vehicle into the gasoline station. There was a truck.
Shh! Hey, no, she's not. No, she's not. You got a miserable hot temper.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Gwen Oglesby says her ex-boyfriend's friend, Dominique Magallanes, kicked her car. Dominique says Gwen attacked her.
Go ahead. She boxed your car in. So she's even more frightening. And then she took off.
No, she didn't, Your Honor.
You took off.
No.
Somebody left.
No, this is a...
You're not still at the gas station.
No, the whole thing is the reason why I ended up leaving is because I was rolling up in my lower truck and I was rolling up the window and I could see her coming out like this and they said, oh my God, there she is, which is my other witness. I had 3 witnesses that didn't even show up today because she's intimidating.
Just a second. I don't care about you 3 witnesses who didn't show up today. Did she hit you?
Yes, she did. She struck me from my driver's side window.
Did you call? Hey, quiet.
He was with me.
Quiet.
As a result of that, the gentleman on back of me in the other vehicle let me go.
So you left?
I ended up going down on this one street that directs from my house to her house.
Perfect.
And then I ended up calling a deputy that I know specifically in the area that we live in to ask him basically, what am I supposed to be doing with this?
Why did you go to her house the next day?
To go out there and let her know that I had just started working for a new office and I didn't want her going into my office and acting a fool like she did at the apartment.
Just a second. So, she acts like a maniac 2 days in a row.
Correct. With her children in the vehicle.
2 days in a row.
Correct.
The next day, you, with a couple of friends in your truck, go to her house to have a discussion with her? A reasonable discussion with her?
No, ma'am.
What did you go there for?
She had occupants in the vehicle. She had 2 daughters.
What did you go there for?
To basically explain to her that I am
So
not
you
gonna
went
do it.
there to have a reasonable, calm discussion with her?
I conduct myself in a decent manner.
What'd you kick her car for? You kicked her car.
No, because the reason why, I admit that
You
I did
did
kick
kick
her
her
car. Because, okay, if anybody caused any trauma to her 2 children, the daughters, she had a knife inside the front vehicle.
I don't want to hear you.
Okay, and about her saying that I had apparently called her these names, she was standing outside the vehicle. She ran inside in the car. She had her hair down as it is now. She pulled it up in a ponytail, and she says, you know what, it's one-on-one, B-I-T-C-H. That's exactly what you said to me, with your children inside the vehicle.
Wonderful. She's not, listen to me. She's a hothead. She's got a hot temper. You're a fool because I don't believe that you don't have a hot temper, because somebody who acts as crazy as she acted 2 days in a row.
Correct.
You don't respond to that by going to her house with friends in your truck. You had no business going over there. You have a friend in the police department.
Correct.
Your friend in the police department would not say to you, well, after acting like a nut, I think it would be a good idea to go over there and try to have a calm discussion with her.
Correct.
And you did, and you ended up kicking her car and causing damage.
Because she tried to exit the vehicle with a knife, and she was on a cell phone.
No, madam. Listen carefully to me. You had no business being there with your two friends in a truck. You kicked her car.
But it was out of self-defense. I wasn't trying to cause any harm to her. You were on the phone, and I said, you know what? I told her straight up.
Be quiet, hothead.
Okay. I told her.
Quiet, hothead.
I told her honestly, I said, you know what, you're a very beautiful woman, but the way you're acting towards me, I have no relationship with Carlos, nothing.
Just a second. I don't believe you when you say you went to her house for the express purpose of having a calm discussion with her. You went there with two cars, not one. Your nephew's car went first. You came in your truck second with other people in your truck. You ended up banging her car. But for the fact that you went to her house, you would not have placed yourself in this circumstance. You have to pay for the damage.
But yet let her come to my residence and drive up and down my residence, so I don't even stay at my house anymore. I've moved out of location.
I'm telling you, she's a hothead. She's not going to get 1 penny for what she says was trauma to her children. She's suing not only for the damage to her car, but for the trauma to her children. She caused that.
I'm not worried about the money. I'm just worried about her leaving me alone. That's basically what I want.
Well, I want to tell you something. You didn't handle it right, madam. Handling it right was not going to her house with a whole bunch of other people.
That's not true, though. I didn't come to her to sit there and try to cause damage to her.
Whether you did or whether you didn't, it was an exercise in poor judgment, considering what had transpired the 2 previous days, to go to her residence.
She presented a note into my...
Listen to me. Period. Period.
When she goes to my office and she...
Period! Now, your girls were traumatized?
Your Honor. Yes.
Your girls were traumatized?
Yes, they were.
I have a feeling that if your girls were in the car, you would have said the exact same things as you said when you went to pick up their property at the house, Big Mouth.
I don't do that in front of my children, Your Honor.
Oh, really not? I don't think you can control yourself. So I'm eliminating any claim for trauma to your children. You better learn how to control your temper. But you do get the damage to the car. Your out-of-pocket is $500. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
The defendant's just upset that I told my ex-boyfriend that she was really a man instead of really a woman.
Her attitude is like way off limits.
Peter Lindstrom and his daughter, 19-year-old Jennifer, are suing Jennifer's ex-boyfriend, 18-year-old student Andy Kunkel, for kicking her car. Andy says Jennifer took his guitar.
Order. All rise. Now, this is case number 130 on the calendar in the matter of Lindstrom versus Kunkel. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Sir, have a seat, please.
You are Mr. Lindstrom?
Correct.
You weren't there during the course of this argument that resulted in damage to a car that you own, that your daughter was driving. Is that right?
That's correct.
So you can have a seat. Ms. Lindstrom, the defendant was your boyfriend. I gather from your papers that you were in the process of breaking up with him. You decided to go over to his house. There was an argument. You decided to take some of your belongings. And an argument ensued, and the argument, I gather, was over a guitar that you were taking with you. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And the argument extended outside and resulted in your father's car getting dented.
Yes.
You say the defendant caused those dents to the car. Okay, so let's start. When was this argument?
April 5th.
Of this year?
Yes.
Now, when you went over to his apartment, had you already broken up?
It was actually his parents' house, and no, we hadn't.
So you went over there for the purpose of what?
Just to hang out.
And you got into an argument?
Yes.
About what?
Nothing in particular. We were just getting on each other's nerves.
So what did you do?
He asked me to leave, and I said I would leave if I could have
my personal belongings back because we assumed we would never be speaking to each other after that point.
And what personal belongings were you going to take?
I had a guitar, a VCR, and a Sony PlayStation, but at that point I was most concerned about the guitar because I still owed money on it.
Tell me about the guitar.
It's a $650 guitar I purchased from a store. I purchased it on a payment plan in which I still owed 2 more payments on.
Who plays the guitar?
Andy plays the guitar.
So you gave the guitar to him?
I bought it with the assumption that he would eventually pay me back for it.
You don't buy something under the assumption. When did you give him the guitar?
The day we bought it.
Tell me the circumstances surrounding you buying the guitar.
We went to a store. We both picked out a guitar that we both liked. I actually traded in a guitar that I owned and paid the remainder of the money that was owed with a check. And there's 2 other checks that were going to be cashed at later dates to make up the remaining payment.
How did you get the guitar, sir?
She gave it to me and I brought it over to my house and I'd been playing it for a couple of months.
What do you mean she gave it to you?
When we moved out of our apartment, she gave the guitar to me and said I could take it to my house.
And said you could take it to your house?
Yes.
Well, did she give it to you as a gift or did she purchase it to share it?
I asked her to buy it for me as a gift and told her I would pay her back if she wanted me to, and that's what I assumed was going on.
You said 2 different things. You said she bought it for you as a gift, and you said you would pay her back.
The gift part of it was that she was going to pay for half of it and I was going to pay for the other half. That was like the original agreement we had when we went into the store to buy the guitar.
Is that right?
Considering that I had given the guitar store my guitar that I had owned previously, that was the part I was paying for.
Is that right?
Yes.
Fine. So how much money was invested in the guitar?
Probably $450.
That you paid for?
Yes.
Okay. And the agreement was he was to pay you back for that?
Yes.
But he was going to keep the guitar?
Yes.
Did you make any payments to her?
I hadn't at the time that she came over. It was a little while after we'd moved out of our apartment, and the fight just happened, and she took the guitar, and I wanted it back.
Why hadn't you made any payments on it?
I hadn't gotten paid from work yet, so I didn't have any money.
So, Miss Lindstrom, based on your contract, you gave him the guitar.
Yes.
He was to make payments on it. So you had no right to take it from the house.
He hadn't made any payment on it.
You didn't have any time frame for the payments. Is that right?
Correct.
So you had no right to take the guitar. It could have been a lawsuit. You could have sued him for the $450. But the guitar was, in fact, his guitar. You understand that? If you didn't, I'm explaining it to you now. You may have still owed money on the guitar, but your agreement was he keeps the guitar, he gives you $450 at some time. That's a lawsuit. That means that if you went there to retrieve your property, he says, I'm keeping the guitar, fine, you still owe me $450. You go to small claims court, you sue him for $450, and if that's your agreement, which he says it was, you get your $450. So you had no right to take the guitar. So you went into the house, you took the guitar, and what happened?
He tried to get me to leave by using force. At one point, he was on top of me on the bed and was choking my neck.
Why didn't you leave when he told you to leave?
Because I wanted to take my things with me first.
The most important thing you said you were interested in taking was the guitar.
That's right.
Which I've already explained to you had no right to take. Okay, so what happened next?
I got a hold of the guitar and he said, fine, if you take it outside, I'm just going to follow you and take it back from you. So I went outside and he grabbed it from me. And I tried to go after him, but he pushed me down. And I got up and he pushed me down 3 more times. And then he turned around to go back into the house, and I grabbed a hold of his back. And he said, Jenny, if you don't let go of my back, I'm going to hit you over the head with the guitar.
So you grabbed hold of his back, which means that you were sort of piggyback, is that right?
Yes.
So your feet were off the ground?
Yes.
And you were holding on to him?
Yes.
Go ahead.
And after he said that, he laid me back down onto the hood of the car. So that
he laid you back down so that you would get off him?
Right.
Go ahead.
And then he got up off of me, and I got up and grabbed the guitar. And I ran around to the other side of the car, to the driver's side. And I got inside. I put the guitar and got inside the car. I shut the doors. I locked them. He looked really upset because I was in my car. There's nothing else he could do. At this point, he kicked off the passenger mirror of my car and then proceeded to kicked the front passenger door and the back passenger door a few times. And then he went inside and his mother came out and asked if I was okay.
Do you have photographs of the car?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see them, please.
Right there.
Sorry.
Is this a picture of the hood of the car?
Yes.
Is there a dent in the hood of the car?
There are several small dents. The picture
Is
doesn't
that-
really show.
Is that from when you fell on the car? That you pay for?
Okay.
Let me hear your version of the events.
What happened was she came over to my house and we were just watching TV and I asked her to leave several times over and over again. The only force I used to try and get her out of the house was I picked her up and carried her. And I got her outside finally to leave and she took my guitar with her, so I went and got it back and she continued to jump at me, try and get it back. She jumped on my back. I pushed her onto the hood of the car because I wanted her off my back. I don't know if I kicked the car during the struggle on accident because she kept attacking me, but...
The hood is during the course of the struggle. The kicks to the car aren't during the course of the struggle.
No, the struggle happened all around the car in my front yard. He was the only other person there that saw it. My mom didn't even come outside till afterwards.
Were you there all the time?
Yes.
Step up.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 19-year-old Jennifer Lindstrom says ex-boyfriend Andy Kunkel owes for an assault and for kicking her car.
Tell me your name.
Tony Vaitkunis.
Tell me what you saw, sir.
I came over, I guess they had been fighting. I came over right when they went outside, and they were running around the car, shouting at each other, and she jumped up on his back, and I saw the money later on the hood of the car. I did not see him kick the car. I don't know anything about that. That came up when Andy got the papers that they were suing him. The fight was pretty much Andy saying, give me my guitar back, and her saying no, and him saying, get away from me, and her running after him and wouldn't just leave.
Okay, let me see the estimates for the car, please. All right, we're eliminating the hood. Do you know why we're eliminating the hood?
I know why you think it should be eliminated, yes.
You jumped on his back. He had to get you off his back.
No,
What do you want him to
throw
do,
me
hit you in
on
the head with the guitar?
No.
Okay. So?
But would that have been my fault, too, if he hit me on the head with the guitar?
Absolutely. He was stealing his guitar. Listen to me. The law doesn't take emotions into account. The law says it's his house. He asked you to leave. You didn't want to leave. He finally told you to leave. You finally said you would leave, and you took his property. Now, he has a right to get his property back. You want to say something?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
He was not, that was his mother's house. He was not living there at the time, so
Yes, I was.
for him to say that he was not living at the home is incorrect.
Now, living at what home?
In his mother's home. He was not living there.
Well, his property was there. And he, as opposed to your daughter, at the time that she was told to leave by someone who has presumptive authority to be in the home, once she comes in with permission, but when she's told to leave, then it becomes a trespass if she doesn't leave. But your daughter had no right to take this guitar. The guitar had been given to the defendant. The fact that he owed her money is handled in a civil way. That's the way we resolve disputes in this country. She walks out the door, she gets into her car, she may be furious, but she gets into the car, and she says, I'm going to sue him for the $450 because that's what he owes me for the guitar. And he promised he would pay me back for the guitar.
Can I say something there?
Yes.
It was my belief that it would not become his guitar until he paid me back for it.
What your belief is irrelevant unless there is an agreement. And I guarantee you that when this guitar was purchased, you did not say to him, you may have physical possession of the guitar, but the guitar does not become yours legally until you pay me the money. You didn't say that to him, did you?
I said something similar, yes.
No, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. That's not what a boyfriend and a girlfriend say to each other. It's not what even friends say to each other. They say, you'll pay me back? You know, I'm going to lay this out, but you'll pay me back for it? Yes, I will. That's it. So, the fact that he had to get you off his back and you dented the hood of your dad's car You have to be responsible for that. But I find that you did, in fact, kick this car. You were angry because she had your guitar in the car, and you were angry.
She didn't have it in the car until she drove off.
Yes, and that's when she says you kicked the car.
No, because she didn't drive off until after my mom came outside, and when my mother came outside, I went back in the house.
Before your mother came outside, you kicked the car. Clearly, this car was kicked. This is not just pushing somebody against the side door. There's a difference between a side door of the car and the hood of the car.
I didn't say that I pushed her into it. I said during the struggle it might have accidentally happened.
Could have happened. I find that it didn't. And he probably should have let her, just on an emotional basis, let her take the guitar and go and sue for it later. If you feel as if it was yours, then you would have sued her, and she would have said, we had an agreement. When he gives me the $450, you can have the guitar. Right?
Yes.
So somebody's got to pay for this man's car. His daughter's going to pay for part of it, for the hood of the car, but you're going to pay for the sides, which comes to $957, judgment for the plaintiff.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think it was fine. I think she was fair in what the decision was.
The judge made some valid points, but that it was...
Yvonne Ugarte is suing her ex-boyfriend, 37-year-old carpenter Victor Espitia, for unpaid bail money and the cost of a new car engine.
Ms. Ugarte, you and the defendant were involved in a relationship.
Yes.
And your lawsuit seeks two things. First, the return of a loan that you made to him for bail money.
Yes.
And the second is for $1,300 that you paid for a new engine for his car or truck.
Yes.
How much was the bail?
Well, it was $1,010, but what he owes me is $810.
Your defense is you say that you were arrested on a domestic violence charge having nothing to do with the plaintiff. You were thoroughly prepared to stay in jail until your arraignment. You didn't ask her to bail you out, and therefore you don't feel as if you owe her the bail money.
That's correct.
Right? And as far as the car engine was concerned, it is your claim that you exchanged gifts. You bought her a ring, and she bought you an engine. So you're even.
Right.
Okay.
Okay,
Were you living together at the time he was arrested?
Yes. He doesn't know this, but he's going to know now. He had a warrant, like he said, on domestic violence with his ex-mother of his other 5 kids. He was getting bad, using drugs with... Okay.
Shh, just listen
okay.
to me. Shh, don't know. He was arrested.
Okay, he was arrested.
Does he call you from jail?
Okay, yes, he called me at work.
And what did he say when he called you?
To go pick up $200 from his mother.
Right.
Okay, I came up with $300.
No.
Okay.
He told you to go pick up $200 from his mother.
And he wanted me to bail him out. So
I told her to wait.
Don't interrupt again. Look at me. Did you hear me?
I understand.
Perfect. Okay, so you went to his mother's house and you picked up $200.
Yes. And then I got $300 of my own.
Yes.
And I went and picked up my friend, Cynthia, who's also co-signed to bail him out.
How much money did you put in?
$300.
So how does he owe you $810?
Well, because that's how much I have to pay back to the bail's bond man. I have everything here.
Let me see.
And that's everything that I've paid so far as receipts.
Okay, so you paid the money?
Yes.
Did you have any conversations when he came home?
Yes, we did.
Like what?
That we were going to go to my friend Cindy's house and say thank you because she didn't have to do that.
Did you go over to Cindy's house with him?
Yes, we did.
And what did he say to Cindy?
He told her thank you because she was the one with the credit.
And what happened with that case?
I got a work project.
Did that case go to trial?
No.
So you pled guilty?
Right.
But you appeared in court when you were supposed to?
I appeared in court 3 days after she bailed me out. That's
Fine.
when I was supposed to go to court.
I understand.
I asked her to wait until that court date to see if they were going to let me out or not.
That's
but
not
she went
true.
ahead and bailed me out anyways.
Did your mother give her $200?
Yes, she did.
Had you spoken to your mother from jail?
No.
Well, how did your mother know to give her the money?
I guess she called her.
You guess. Did you give your mother back the money?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
Good. Perfect. And that wasn't even a loan. You see how we get to the truth? All right. Now let's get to the car engine. Tell me about the car engine, Ms. Ugarte.
Okay, Victor and I had a deal that, which is all to benefit the family, had a baby coming, whatever, that if we went and got his engine for his truck, that he would, in return, when I bought the transmission for my car, he would put the transmission in my car, buy me a small ring, no engagement ring, a rinky-dink ring, and a computer at his own time. He agreed to that.
Okay.
No, I
Okay.
didn't.
Shh.
So,
What? Say, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
so we went down and we purchased the engine.
Okay.
Okay. A couple days later, he was to sign up for work project on this domestic violence. Well, he went out partying, took my car. He doesn't have a license. He has to go through DUI classes. Ended up with my car for the whole weekend. I was pregnant at the time, stressing. He went and did his little habit with his friends. So I was like, okay, I got to get that engine back. I went down there because I didn't have the receipt. I couldn't get it. He got it.
So he got the engine. Did he
Yep.
buy you the ring?
No.
Yes, I did.
No.
Did you buy a transmission for your car?
No, not yet. I didn't.
Well, let me explain what your problem is. You were going to buy a transmission for your car, and he was going to put it in your car, and that would be payment for the engine, right?
Yes.
You haven't bought the transmission for your car yet.
I didn't see a need to when he took off with the engine and he wasn't going to put it in, so I was going to have to throw it in a shop.
I didn't tell you I wasn't.
Okay?
I'm waiting for you to buy it.
No, you weren't.
Yes, I was.
Let me hear it again.
What? I'm sorry.
Perfect. Don't speak to her. Speak to me.
She's lying.
I don't think she's lying, sir.
Well,
I
Your
just
Honor-
and you're not losing with regard to anything but the bail money so far. Bail money you lost, $810. That you have to give her back. You want her to stay in jail, you tell the jailer, don't take me out of here, I don't want to get bailed out. You don't do that, you pay the bail. You paid your mother, and she loves you. She doesn't love you anymore. How much was this ring he was supposed to buy you going to cost?
Not even over $50.
And what about the computer? Did you buy her a computer?
No, I didn't. Our deal was, she said, a ring or a computer.
Did you buy her either one?
Yes, I bought her a ring.
What kind of ring did you buy her?
It's a promise ring.
When did you buy it?
Valentine's Day last year.
And when did she buy the engine?
When-
Don't look at her. Look at me. When did she buy the engine for your
I
truck?
guess it was in December.
Was that before or after?
After?
After the promise ring.
Right.
Then you couldn't have made an agreement with her that you were going to buy her a promise ring in exchange for this engine. Do you understand?
Yes.
The dates don't match up. So you didn't buy her the computer,
No.
and you didn't buy her the ring.
Not yet.
I want it
I
now.
doubt it. I doubt it. Now, she says the ring, that you were going to spend only $50 for the ring. That's, should have said he was going to spend $500. That would have been better for you. How much does it cost to put in an engine?
$1,300 in the shop.
Just the
$1,200.
labor part.
Oh, I'm not even sure. Gosh.
Well, then how am I supposed to know?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
500. I don't know what the labor is.
Meanwhile, you haven't bought it, so he can't renege on that part of the contract. So, you know how to do that?
Yes.
So, that's part of it. But you would have at least spent $200 for a ring, right? You wouldn't
Yeah.
buy her a ring
No.
for $50,
That
right?
one was free
Right.
from his mom.
Right?
Right.
Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $1,010. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He sold his son, 3 weeks old son, out for an engine.
Her boss was supposed to bought the
If
transmission
she bought
for
the
her car.
transmission, I'll put it in.
He reneged by using drugs with this friend right here.
If she wants a ring, I'll buy her a ring.
I hope.
Tiana Hill is suing her former co-worker, Diamond Horton, for vandalizing her car and harassment while working together.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case 2141, Hill versus Horton.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Hill,
Yes, sir.
what's this man's name?
Claudius Brown.
You have a child with him
Yes, ma'am.
who's 10 years old.
Yes.
Is that your only child?
No, ma'am.
How many children do you have?
I have 4 children.
Is he the oldest?
She is the oldest.
She's the oldest.
Yes.
Does she see her father?
No.
Hasn't seen him in how long?
Months to a year.
The defendant has 2 children with him.
Yes, ma'am.
How old are they?
Well, he'll be 2 on the 9th, and then I have a 10-month-old.
And then, according to what I've read here in either the complaint or the answer, he has at least one other child.
Yes, ma'am.
Which is how old?
Probably about 7.
does he see that child?
Every blue moon when she brings them.
So once in a while.
Yeah.
So he has 4 children altogether?
Yes, ma'am.
And you currently live with him?
Yes.
What does he do for a living?
He works at a warehouse.
And you?
But I'm a certified nurse assistant.
Who takes care of the kids?
Me and Claudius.
You work different shifts?
Yes, he works overnight. I work day shift.
So you're currently working?
Yes, ma'am.
But there came a time, I'm just trying to figure out why everybody's sort of mad and fighting over him. I don't understand it. There must be something that you ladies see that is hidden from me, because it is your claim, Miss Hill, that Miss Horton not only vandalized your car, but that she caused you to be fired from your job. She says that you filed a false restraining order against her and that actually you caused her to lose her job, and it's all over the prize, which I can never really understand. How long have you been working in your current job?
About 3 months now.
So you got another job?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you like it?
Yes.
Making about the same money or more?
A little less.
And where are you working?
I'm a machine operator.
So you got another job?
Yes.
Because all this started when all of a sudden you found yourselves working at the same place?
Yes.
And in what month was that?
That was, I started the job May 31st, but it spilled over into June is when everything took place.
And how long were you working at the same place?
3 months. I started March 4th of 2022.
Okay, so it was a short-term employment for both of you. And you were there first?
Yes, ma'am.
And you came shortly thereafter, shortly after she started to work. Had you ever met each other?
No.
Well, explain to me what the problem was.
So there's a history that started back in 2019 via text messages and Facebook. So we've had an ongoing beef for years.
Who cares? Now you're going to both get smarter. You're going to come here today and you're going to both get smarter. And if he has 2 children that he doesn't see, her daughter and your 7-year-old, according to what I hear, that you see once every blue moon, that's a basket that I wouldn't be in. So you have a history of bad texting back and forth and stuff. I don't care about that. Let's get to the 2 allegations of, 1, that she vandalized your tires. When and what proof do you have that she vandalized your tires? This is after you both found yourself in the same working environment.
It wasn't my tires. She actually keyed my vehicle.
Keyed it?
Yes.
On what date?
On June 18th. And I have my police report from that.
Okay, I'll look at the police report. Did you see her key your car?
I did not see her, but I requested video footage from the job, and they stated that they would give me the video footage.
Do we have it?
We don't have it, but the city attorney was unable to receive it as well. But I have a letter from the city attorney.
You don't have it here for me, and you didn't see her key your car.
Yes.
What we're here for is a trial, so I need what proof you have that she keyed your car. I assume your car was at work.
Yes.
When it was keyed, okay? And I'm assuming that you don't like each other, that things got nasty, heated on social media, back and forth. I'm assuming all that is true. All I need for you to show me is proof that she keyed your car.
Well, I have audio recording from HR where they're stating that everything was initiated by the defendant. And Arkansas is a one-party state, so I can play the audio for you.
Oh, was she on the audio?
They're talking about the video in the recording and that they were supposed to give it to me.
Can't help you. Okay, this next part of your case is that she caused you to lose your job.
Yes.
Go.
So I have my termination letter stating that they're defended.
I'd like to see a termination letter.
It's a joke.
This is the description of the termination letter and description of the violation. Kiana has been involved in altercations with another employee. While the other employee instigated the situations, it has gotten to a point where multiple other staff are now involved. I don't know what that means. At this point, it is affecting patient care and causing a hostile work environment. Termination effective immediately. I assume that you have a similar letter because you were terminated. May I see it?
Yes. I also have a final warning.
Just a second. Okay. On Wednesday, June 15th, 2022, Diamond, that's you.
Yes, ma'am.
Was given a final written notice concerning harassment of other employees. It has since been reported that the harassment has continued. Also, multiple other staff have been pulled into this situation to the point that it's affecting patient care, and it's a termination letter. Okay, so I'm assuming since you got this, you were notified previously about having any communication with each other. You were not.
I was out for COVID. I had just got back to work June 15th of 2022. And I found out that Hill was working there. I never knew she was working there at all. And so I got called to the office.
Kiana Hill claims her former co-worker, Diamond Horton, harassed her at work and caused her to be fired. Diamond is countersuing for filing a false restraining order.
My question was a relatively simple one, because I'm going to make this as simple as possible before I probably dismiss both of them. I would like to see, after June 15th, 2022, up until the date of the termination, which is June 23rd, 2022, how the harassment continued. I would like you to show me from June 15th.
The actual date was June 14th.
Well, this says June 15th.
I wasn't working.
Shh.
She
This violation.
To my friends as well. We have the date time stamp.
I just want you to show me after June 15th, between June 15th and June 23rd,
yes, ma'am,
what further acts that you allege are acts of harassment occurred.
I have the schedule showing the date.
Shh. Well, I don't know what this is.
A fake Facebook page that she made.
How do you know this is a fake Facebook page that she made?
That was a requested message that was sent to me after her and myself had a conversation, and she was threatening to beat me up. And it says, since you didn't apologize, D is going to beat you up.
Okay.
The D that they're referring to is Diamond.
Oh, my God. What is this?
The 870 number is her calling my phone.
Okay. And 870.
The missed calls.
This was on what date?
That was on June 19th.
What were you calling her for at 6 o'clock in the evening?
Well, the day she accused me of vandalizing her car is the day that we had worked together. She called the police and her family came up there and they all had guns. That's the reason she got terminated, because she brought a gun on the premises.
That's
and they
not what
came
my
up
letter
there to
states.
jump me.
That's a lie.
When I went outside,
I just want to ask you why you called her.
I called her to ask her because the June 16th is when I sat down. I had a conversation together to
did.
drop all beef. Like,
She
no
was
issue.
calling while she was
I don't
calling
want you.
me.
You want to say you can't control yourself. Understand, you're sending me a bad message. If you can't control yourself here, which is a very controlled setting, I'm going to say to myself, this is somebody who can't control themselves outside of the setting. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So I called her to ask her why did she feel like I vandalized her vehicle, because before that we sat down and we had a conversation together at work saying it should be dead. Like, well, we should not have any beef, over him at all, and that the kids were involved. And so we agreed to let it go. So then she accused me of vandalizing her vehicle.
What was the beef about? I don't understand.
The other baby mama is the reason why we're into it.
The 7-year-old's mother?
Yes.
Yeah. The 7-year-old's mother?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So we have no proof of vandalizing, and this is nonsense. You want to tell me about the restraining order that you filed?
There was an order of protection placed after she was harassing me at work.
May I see it?
Yes. But it was also rescinded.
By the way, does he pay child support for your daughter?
Yes, ma'am.
He does. How much?
He pays probably about $239 every 2 weeks, somewhere around
Does he pay it to you?
Yes. Well, it's through child support.
But he pays it to you?
Yes.
And he's current?
Yes. Well, there's back pay, but he's currently paying.
Okay. So was there a hearing on this order of protection?
It was not.
There was
No,
not.
ma'am,
Did
there
you
was not a hearing.
Just a second. Did you appear?
No, I rescinded it.
I understand that. I just want to know the court found that the petition was dismissed.
It was a false accusation.
Okay. So the reason that the order states it was dismissed is that the petitioner doesn't meet the definition of family or household member as defined in whatever statute is, and therefore does not allege the existence of domestic abuse. Doesn't address the gravamen of the petition. It's a more procedural dismissal because she's not related to you in any way. I mean, having children with a person in common doesn't make you, at least in this jurisdiction, part of the household. Okay, you both look like nice ladies. You know, he has kids with 2 other people Not a great track record?
He really don't see them because they don't let him. They don't want their kids around me.
There's a reason. You know, maybe not a great track record. It's not good for your children. It's really not good for your children. I mean, your children, believe it or not, your children are related to each other. I mean, you may not have any interest whatsoever, but when your children get older, they may have a curiosity about who their half-sibling is, what they look like, they alike. They may have interest. So all I can suggest to you is your children didn't ask to be born. The idea that you exert any energy whatsoever, negative energy with regard to each other, is ridiculous. Really ridiculous. But for him, you wouldn't have any contact with each other. Am I reading that right?
Yes, yes ma'am.
Yeah. Well, why? He hasn't been in your life in years. And I know that he shouldn't have been in your life at least for the last 7 years because he's got a 7-year-old with somebody else, right? And you have a 10-year-old. Mm-hmm. Goodbye, except for your daughter. Mm-hmm. And
so could I state that the situation is not about him. It's about the harassment, the lost wages. That's more of my concern with her. It has nothing to do with
I was working before you. I was working at a job. You came to my job.
Just a second. What I'm telling you is, right now, and I don't have to get into it any further, right now, she's got the guy.
I don't care.
Just a second. Right now, she's got the guy. So that would perhaps give rise to some animus on your part. With regard to her position, he's working and he's paying money to your child, which is, in her mind, taking money away from her 2 children that she has with him. Well, that's his responsibility. You knew about that child and you knew about the 7-year-old. Mm-hmm. So what I'm telling you is there's a lot of negative energy going on. You both got jobs relatively soon after this. It was probably not a good idea for you to stay in the same place. And your employer was absolutely right and actually quite brave in today's times to say, we're terminating both of you because your job is affecting patient care. Because it's not only the 2 of you, other employees have been drawn into this drama.
That's because she brought them in.
I don't know whether she brought them in or not, and I don't care whether she brought them in.
And later today.
She wasn't your best friend. She wasn't even a close friend. You hadn't spoken to her in years. So clearly you called her to do a job for you that was her profession. And in addition to doing that, she bought you your wedding dress.
Wasn't me. You're never responsible for unauthorized purchases on your Discover card.
Sometimes we lose, sometimes we win. Sometimes we try to fit it all in. Sometimes we don't know what's in store. Sometimes we find what we're looking for. Sometimes we're rolling easy and free. Sometimes 1 and 1 makes 3. So much to love along this ride. That's why Nationwide is on your side.
Kiana Hill claims her former co-worker, Diamond Horton, harassed her at work and caused her to be fired. Diamond is countersuing for filing a false restraining order.
Now, of all the places that you have to work, you had to work in a place where she was working.
I didn't know she worked there.
And she didn't know that you were there.
She did on the first day that I started, and she told everyone who I was and what the situation was.
I was out for COVID.
Okay, who cares? Anyway, cases are dismissed. Goodbye, good luck.
This court is adjourned.
I feel like the judge, she made the right decision.
She didn't listen.
Because I'm with her baby's father, which is now my baby's father.
He had nothing to do with this situation.
I just want to be there for my kids.
You know, to his credit, he's paying support.
Sure. Has a job.
Has a job. And I don't know why these 2 women feud when, according to plaintiff, she has no interest in him anymore.
And she's getting support.
She's getting support. I just don't understand. There are so many things that life has that present obstacles. Why fight over a guy?
There's many good causes you could get behind and fight for. Let's choose one of those.
Yeah, right.
Michael Attar is suing his former clients, Mary and Michael Rhodes, for unpaid demolition work.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2115, Atar versus Rose.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Atar, you were hired to do some, according to you, demolition work and other work at a property owned by Mr. and Mrs. Rhodes. You gave them an estimate for that work. I think the estimate was $11,500. Is that correct?
Correct.
And it was outlined what work you were supposed to do. You started that work, and according to you, at some point there was disagreement with either or both of the Rhodeses, and they stopped payment on a check that they gave you.
Correct.
And the check that they gave you was for $4,200. And then you stopped work for them.
Yes, ma'am. We're finished.
So you're suing them for the canceled check and for other unpaid work that you did that you didn't get paid for.
Correct.
Mr. and Mrs. Rhodes say that they were not satisfied with the quality of your work. It cost them $9,000 to both replace things that were stolen from their property by either you or members of your team, something which I don't think that you question, that somebody from your team, not you, somebody from your team may have taken metal property of theirs that they didn't own. So let's go back. Mr. and Mrs. Rhodes, is this a new property to you, or is this a property that you owned for a while?
It's a new property to us.
That's what I thought. Yeah. So is it a private house?
Yes, and we were remodeling it.
Okay, when did you purchase it?
We purchased in January of 2021.
Is it a single-family residence?
Yes.
How much did you pay for it?
$769,000.
Describe the property to me.
It's in northern Altaloma or Rancho Cucamonga. It's an acre property, has 2 levels on it, and a single-family ranch-style home on it right now. And what we asked him to do was demolition the lower half.
Do you have a photograph?
I do.
I'd like to look at the photograph of what you wanted him to do.
That's what the lower half looked like before.
So this whole portion you wanted him
correct
to demolish and remove the debris.
And grade flat.
Is that correct, sir?
I can't see from here, ma'am.
Okay. We're going to show it to you. To demolish it, flatten it, fill it in.
Remove all the debris.
Yes.
Okay. And did you have a written contract?
We did not.
Well, that's always a mistake.
Always.
How did you find him?
I believe I got his business card. It was on my personal car, I think at Home Depot. We had bought this house, and we tried to find somebody to do the work, but...
Mr. Rhodes, let me tell you that the best way to find somebody is not somebody who leaves a card on your car at Home Depot or any place else.
Yeah.
It was a difficult time to find contractors with COVID and everything at that time.
And at the time, I'm also going to add, because I read in the paper somewhere at the time, he didn't have a license.
He did not.
And you knew he didn't have a license.
Yeah.
That's the first thing I told him, Your Honor. I do not
Just a second. They didn't say no, we didn't know. They said we knew. So you got somebody who had no license to do what you wanted him to do, and you got his number from a card that he left on your windshield. Did you ask for references? That's either a yes or a no.
No, and I'm not really sure actually 100% on where I found that card. I think
it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
I mean,
but he did tell us he was in the process of getting his license. That it was coming.
Yeah. I know.
What does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. You're two intelligent people. Okay. So you hired an unlicensed contractor to do work on your house and agreed to pay him $11,500. Now, Mr. Rattar, the $11,000 included labor and materials. Is that correct?
There was no material. It was labor and bins.
Well, that's material. Labor and bins to remove
Yes, ma'am.
all the equipment that you needed
Yes, ma'am.
to complete the job.
Yes, ma'am. I
Is
got
that
pictures
correct?
of before, too, of what I was supposed to do, and I took a picture.
Well, no, I have that.
You have the wrong picture, Your Honor.
Okay, I'd like to see the picture that he has.
I was supposed to do from the post all the way to the other post, remove everything, and the pool and the deck.
Mr. Rattar, the $11,500 was an all-inclusive figure.
Yes, Your Honor.
One of the things that became an issue is a bobcat.
Correct.
From what I'm piecing together, you hired somebody in a bobcat to do a bobcat. That's a big piece of equipment that knocks down something.
I rented a bobcat.
And somebody who operated it.
My worker.
You didn't know how to operate the bobcat.
I know how to operate bobcat, but I was controlling the demolition site, ma'am. I was like many things
Just a
was going at the
second.
same time. I had to control everything.
Mr. Rattar, Something happened with the Bobcat, the original one that you got. What happened with it?
It broke down on us.
No, it didn't break down on them. It broke down on you.
On us.
It broke down on you.
Yes.
So what did you do?
I took it back, and next day they're supposed to deliver me another one, but they sent me a drunk driver and another broken down Bobcat. I returned it. At that moment, I asked Mrs. Rhodes, can you please go down Home Depot, which is like a mile away, so we don't stop wasting time, rent a Bobcat or not.
Just a second. Why should she rent a Bobcat, sir? Your $11,500 included the Bobcat.
But I was paid for it.
No. If you're going to pay for it, that's one thing. Then what are you sending her for? If your $11,500 figure included all materials, then she doesn't have to rent a Bobcat. If you rented one that didn't work, rent one that works. How much of a down payment did they give you?
Presume was $4,000.
When did you start the job?
I started the job on 15th of January.
When did you leave the job?
I was asked to leave on the 2nd of February.
On February 2nd?
Yes, ma'am. Not to go back, I'll call the cops on you.
Between January 15th and February 2nd, other than the $4,000, did they give you any other money?
Yes, Your Honor, they did.
How much money did they give you?
They gave me up to $7,000.
So they gave you an additional $3,000?
Yes, and $1,000 check.
Your Honor, that was within the first week we gave him.
It doesn't matter to me. My question was between January 15th and February 2nd, they gave you $7,000.
Correct.
Explain the other $4,200, which is the check that they stopped payment on.
Okay. I'll happily explain to you. The Bobcat she rented for me on her behalf, it cost $329 to rent per day. And I rented for one day only, but they charged me $800.
No, that's not correct.
Just a second. I didn't ask you anything.
Okay.
Do you have a photograph of what the property looked like when you left?
Yes, ma'am. The last picture I took before I was kicked out of the property.
You're talking, I'm not listening to you.
Michael Attar claims his former clients, Mary and Michael Rhodes, owe for unpaid demolition work. Mary and Michael are countersuing for lost wages, equipment rental, and missing property.
Now, they paid you $7,000.
Correct.
They wrote you another check.
The final check was supposed to be $5,000, but they only gave me $4,200 because they mined $800 for the Bobcat rental.
Just a second. First of all, the total bill wasn't 7 and 5. 7 and 5, even my rudimentary math, is $12,000. That would be $500 more than your agreed contract, which was for $11,500.
They gave me $6,500 because they gave me small checks. They gave me the first initial
Just a
check,
second.
and they gave me smaller ones.
Sir, you're the businessman, whether you have a license or not. I asked you before how much money did they give you between January 15th and February 2nd, and you said $7,000.
I didn't write it down, Your Honor.
Well, you're here asking for money, and you have to write it down. You have to have
work
some.
I've done performed already. And
No, sir.
And I just did the job, Your Honor. I did 7, 8 other side jobs.
I don't care whether you did 7 or 8 side jobs. Your original agreement with them was for $11,500, including all material. Now, what you said to me was that they gave you $7,000, and you said they're supposed to give me another $5,000. Well, another $5,000 is more than your quote.
Ma'am, the balance was $5,000.
How?
The initial check, then they gave me $1,000, $1,000, $1,000.
How much money did you give them all together that he cashed?
$7,000.
Then they owed you $4,500, pursuant to your agreement.
We agreed to $11,000, not $11,500.
$11,500, Your Honor.
Anybody have any proof of what the agreed amount was?
We had a verbal contract with me, Mr. Rhodes.
Fine. I will indicate that it's $11,500. If they gave you $7,000, they don't owe you $5,000. They owed you the difference between $11,500 and the $7,000 that they gave you. Now, one of the things that you disputed, Mr. Attar, was this Bobcat. Who paid for the Bobcat? Show me.
They minus it from the final price.
Just a second. Was that an argument?
The argument about it is, Your Honor, is they rented for one day, but they charged me 2 days, $800. There's no Bobcat rental for $800 for 2 days. I got.
Do you have the bill for the Bobcat?
I do, yes. And it was for 2 days.
Go over a certain time.
Because it was returned late. So they charged a second day. But in his text messages, he did request it for 2 days.
Is that the total price?
Yes, and I did not subtract it from his payment.
Total contract was $652.74?
Yes.
Do you have a photograph of what the property looked like when you left?
Yes, ma'am. The last picture I took before I was kicked out of the property.
You're talking, I'm not listening to you. Just show me a picture.
Yes, ma'am. This is not a picture.
Mr. Attar, you're the businessman.
Yes, ma'am.
This is your company.
Yes, ma'am.
Company requires A, a license before you operate, which you didn't have.
If you do.
B, it requires a written contract. You're the businessman. They're people who bought a house who got your number off a windshield someplace. You're the businessman, and you want the parameters. You want them fixed. So I don't know if it's 11,000 or 11,500. Do you understand?
Very much, Your Honor.
Right. Well, that's your mistake. You look as if you've probably been in business for a long time.
14 years.
And is what you're telling me you don't have written contracts?
All my contracts are verbal.
Then how many times have you been in court, sir?
Never.
Never.
I've never had a stop payment check. Never paid me on time, Your Honor.
It's the problem. So when you finished, the debris wasn't all removed.
That wood, they kept telling me, don't touch it. Their neighbor, cousin, whoever's going to come pick it up. That was just cut court wood.
No. There's brick, there's wood, there's cement.
We cleaned all that. I personally cleaned all that.
Just a second. What I asked you, Mr. Attar, was show me a picture of the property when you left. This is the picture that you showed me.
That was the last, before I had more work, I came in and did more. I wasn't taking pictures. I wasn't expecting somebody to stop payment on a check, Your Honor. I was not expecting that.
What it looked like when he left.
What about after?
Well, what are you showing me here? This brick that's here?
They piled it there and then left it there.
Well, that's probably a good one.
No, it was supposed to be removed.
So this is the back.
That's the picture of the sagging patio because he removed part of the supports that were holding up the patio that he wasn't supposed to. So it's now sagging.
Now, this is the picture that you gave me when you told me this is what you wanted, leveled, cleared, and made flat.
Right.
Now, I want to see your picture of what this looked like when he left.
You have it. It's in some of those photos.
Flat leveled.
You're talking about this?
Yeah.
That's part of it. The close-ups, that's part of it.
Well, it looks like most of the stuff is done. It looked like a lot of cleanup left.
No, ma'am. We've done all the cleanup.
Well, I haven't seen that, so then what you're supposed to do is take a photograph.
It was also buried underneath. These are the photos of when we did it ourselves and really leveled it out. And as we were doing that, we found so much buried underneath that should have been removed, but his Bobcat person buried it all.
Your Honor.
Mean buried
all the debris, all the concrete brick.
Okay, let me see the bill from the...
No, we did it ourselves. We rented equipment and did it ourselves on his vacation.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Okay. $4,500 is so far what's owed on this contract. Now, your counterclaim is money owed for lost work, equipment rentals, labor and missing damages to property. What money owed for lost work?
During the second week that he was working, he called and said that his crew had left. This was the second day of supposed to be use of the Bobcat that I rented.
Okay, if you interrupt me again, I'm just dismissing your case. Do you understand?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Very good.
So
just explain lost work. Who's lost work?
Oh,
forget it.
Well, he called and said his crew left.
Forget it.
He can't finish the job.
You weren't living there.
Not yet, no.
You weren't living there. Okay. He wants to go. I'm not interested in his lost wages for taking care of his house. So far, you owe the man the balance on his contract, unless you had somebody else do it, which is absolutely fine. And I would look at that removal of debris, what it costs you, and you're absolutely entitled to that. Deducted from what you owe him, which is $4,500.
But he didn't finish the job.
Just a second. You tell me, how am I supposed to gauge how much of the job he didn't finish? Did he not complete $2,500 worth? $3,500 worth? $1,500 worth?
I think the $7,000 we paid him was overpaid. He didn't have to end up removing an entire pool. He only had to remove...
That's your problem. Just a second. I read that. You said it's not a big pool. It wasn't 8 feet. It was only 24 inches. He gave you a price to level everything. Nothing delineated, Nothing in a written contract. The pool turns out to be 2 feet instead of 6 feet or 2 feet instead of 8 feet. Well, if he was the contractor and he came out and he looked at the pool, he said, oh, this is an 8-foot pool, and it turned out it's a 12-foot pool, he'd be stuck with 11.5, just like you're stuck with 11.5 because it was shallower. Now, you owe him $4,500 unless you want to produce for me bills that you have for rental equipment, et cetera, and I will absolutely deduct that from the $4,500. Just give me the bills and the amount of equipment. Don't say nothing, Mr. Rattar. Mr. Rhodes, did you rent a Bobcat?
The one that I cleaned up the yard with?
Yes.
I rented a piece of equipment.
Jump up!
Yes.
And you know how they pick up metal?
No, I don't know that, sir. I'm a television personality. I don't know about people driving down the street to pick up metal. I've never had somebody drive down the street and say, I'm looking for metal. They don't even come down my street and ask if I want sharp knives.
Michael Attar has accused his former clients, Mary and Michael Rhodes, of refusing to pay for demolition work. Mary and Michael claim he never finished the job and stole their property.
Now, what did you rent?
A skip loader.
That's different from a Bobcat.
Yes, that's correct.
Smaller?
I would say bigger.
Bigger. And do you remember how much it cost you? Did you rent it from Home Depot?
No. It's from a local rental yard. I think it was
All the equipment we
in Ontario.
$1,300.
Yeah.
Find it.
Yeah.
Find the bill.
They didn't print it, so now I gotta.
How many days did you have it, Mr. Rhodes?
4.
I'm dismissing your counterclaim, Mrs. Rhodes. Do you want to know why? Because I asked him a specific question, and you answered. Do you understand? Do you understand? That part of your counterclaim, because you don't have it, you can't find it. So far you owe him $4,500. Not $8,600, but $4,500. Now, do you have any proof that Mr. Attar or someone from his team stole copper piping or whatever piping that you claim was missing? Do you have any proof that either Mr. Attar or anyone under his authority took property from you?
Yes. We have text messages back and forth.
Okay, I'll read them. Okay, so what you're referring to with regard to the stolen property is you send a picture and there's a little piece of pipe there, one piece of pipe, and you say, Mike, did you or your guys happen to grind off 2 metal poles and concrete blocks? The kids use those for volleyball nets. And he says, oh my God, no, sir, but I'm guessing the person whom I gave my metal to, no problem, Michael, please give, and I don't see the rest of this message.
Yes, so that was the beginning of things we noticed that were missing.
Oh, I don't care.
And then,
this is what you're talking about?
Yes, he's saying he let a metal person onto our yard, and they went and took everything that was metal.
Okay. Okay, now, Mr. Attar.
Yes, Your Honor.
I want you to tell me about the missing metal on this property.
She was standing right there, and there was a metal guy that drives down the street. And you know how they pick up metal?
No, I don't know that, sir. I'm a television personality. I don't know about people driving down the street to pick up metal. I've never had somebody drive down the street and say, I'm looking for metal. They don't even come down my street and ask if I want sharp knives.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Very much, Your Honor.
Do you understand?
Very much, Your Honor.
Okay. Who is this person?
This person was picking up metal, and I asked for permission. I said, ma'am, could you come down the property?
Just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
Was this person picking up metal for nothing?
Yes,
Just a second. Yeah. No. You're a business guy. Mr. Attar, somebody drives down the street and says, you know, I see you doing construction. Is there any metal around here that you want me to dispose of?
Yes, ma'am. They do a lot.
Yes. And then they look around. This is what you tell them. They look around and they take the metal for nothing.
Yes, ma'am. This would be cheaper for me instead of load it on my trailer and take it to the recycling metal yard.
So what metal did they take, sir? I assume
everything that I gave them.
What did you give them?
Nobody went up there and cut no poles, ma'am.
Well, they sent you a picture of a pole, sir, and in response to the picture of the pole, you said, oh my God, I'm guessing the person whom I gave my metal to.
I'm guessing.
No problem. And then you say later, tell me what it is, and I will either look high and low to get it back, or replace it. That's what you say.
Yes, I offered to replace it.
That's what you say.
I offered to replace it.
Now, next question. I need an itemized list and what the value was of the metal taken.
No, there's a list of everything. They're listed in there.
What is this?
Those are all the damages, but the metal is listed in there separately of the items that are missing.
No, it isn't. This is a whole bunch of other things that you prepared for this case.
It's in there underneath. There's the horse feeder. Part of the corral was cut off.
This is something that you wrote yourself.
Yes, you said an itemized list.
If they took 6 feet of pipe, get me a bill from Home Depot for the replacement of that pipe.
Oh, I have
all the bills for the replacement of metal, not what you prepared for this litigation.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood. Itemized list.
Did you take down a horse corral?
No, Your Honor, I did not take no horse corral. I have nothing
Horse
to do.
corral, is that metal or is it?
It's made out of galvanized metal, yeah. They cut pieces off of that were sticking up to take to recycle, I guess.
Just a second. Was there a 4-sided horse corral?
Yes.
That looked like this?
Yes.
That they took down?
They cut pieces that were sticking up above the horse corral, attached to the horse corral.
You're being petty. You're being petty. $306 Ram's price, galvanized wall-mounted horse feeder. Did you take a horse feeder?
No, Your Honor, I got no.
Yo, Mr. Ratoff, $4,500. Judgment for the plaintiff. Counterclaims dismissed. We're finished.
This court is adjourned.
Well, his equipment broke, and he wanted us to rent the equipment for him.
Equipment died because things break down.
And then the next day, he calls and says he can't finish it.
At that moment, I didn't have a credit card to my name. And that's the honest truth.
So we pretty much figured that was job abandonment at that point.
I'm going to have a written contract in the future. Don't hire him.
Always hire a professional.
I could not believe that your first question to him when he said that he'd been working as a contractor for 14 years was, and you've been working all 14 of those years unlicensed?
Oh, yeah.
I was waiting for the question. I was waiting at the edge of my seat, and it never came.
Different minds. Yeah. Should have slipped me a note.
I should have.
You should have slipped me a note. No, that actually didn't cross my mind, but that's a good question.
Yeah, oral contracts and no license.
And no license, but there's no question. He did the work.
Yeah, no, I agree.
He did the work, and they were really dickering over who was going to absorb the cost of this second Bobcat that they had to get, which was really ridiculous. If they had had another contractor who came and completed the job.
You would have awarded that.
I would have deducted it from the $4,500 that they owed him. But absent that, the fact that he rented some sort of piece of equipment and came and cleaned up the property was not important to me. And the rest of their case was nonsense. Next time, they won't employ somebody for $11,000 from a card from your windshield.
At Home Depot.
From
Anywhere.
wherever, and not say, okay, listen, maybe I'll give him a shot. Give me 3 of your last references to call.
It's a good lesson to people out there,
I don't understand that.
Yeah.
Well, anyway.
Derek Kwan is suing dog walker Danielle Lancaster for damages resulting from a dog attack.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case number 2002. Kwan versus Lancaster.
Mr. Kwan, succinctly, your case involves an attack of a dog that was being walked by Miss Lancaster. She was a dog walker. She didn't own the dog.
Correct.
The dog got away from her, and according to you, attacked your dog, and you want to be compensated to the tune of $10,000.
Correct.
You were neither hospitalized, correct?
I was not hospitalized.
You were neither hospitalized, and your dog was not hospitalized.
Correct.
I assume that you have some medical evidence as a result of this incident to show me that you suffered from a dog bite.
Yes.
Okay. And the dog bite was from the dog that was being walked by Miss Lancaster.
Walked is, I'm not sure if I would use the term.
She's a dog walker.
Yes,
She's
but
a
it was
dog
off
walker.
leash.
She's not the owner of the dog.
Correct.
The incident happened on what date and time?
December 22nd, 2021 at approximately 1:30 p.m.
And you were walking your dog, which is what breed?
A 20-pound wiener dog mix.
And you were a dog walker. How long had you been in charge of walking this dog?
At that point, it was about a week.
What kind of dog was it?
I believe it was a boxer mix. Not 100% sure.
How old?
2, 3 years old. give or take.
Who are the owners of the dog?
The owners, I can't remember their name. One of Mike, but I don't remember their last names. But
you remember the owners' names?
Yes.
And it would be fair to say that you knew their names because you tried to sue them.
I contacted them, yes, but did not sue them.
And you contacted them because they're the owners of the dog and they have a house.
Mm-hmm.
Is not an answer.
Yes.
And a house usually has homeowners insurance.
Correct.
Correct? And after contacting them, and it's their dog, so they are ultimately responsible for their dog, you opted not to seek compensation for your alleged injuries and this attack, but to sue the dog walker.
Correct.
Just my own information, Mr. Kwan, do you want to tell me why you did that?
Yeah. So per California strict liability law, anybody who takes physical ownership or responsibility for a dog is also responsible for any sort of attacks or damages it causes while they are responsible for that dog. Regardless
okay, just a second. So what you're saying is in the state of California, if you are walking a dog, and she says she was walking this dog for a week, how many times a day, every day?
2 times a day.
Twice a day. And she had this job for a week. That under all circumstances, she is responsible for any injury that the dog does. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
And what code is that?
I have a statute over here.
Just tell me the statute.
Per California dog bite law. I don't have the number, but I can bring it up to the,
Would you bring it up?
The court.
It's California Civil Code 3342.
Do you have it?
I could pull it up. I have my notes.
Could you pull it up for me? And I'll come back to you in a second, Sarah. I'm just curious about it. Okay, now let's tell me about the incident, sir.
Sure. So at the time that I described earlier, I was walking my 20-pound wiener dog Mix while my mother walked my infant son, who was 3 months at the time, in a stroller.
Care.
Okay.
I mean, it's not that I don't care about him and I don't care about your mother, but they have nothing to do with this case.
Well, they do have something to do with this case because when we turned onto the block, I turned and I saw an off-leash dog roughly 3 times the size of mine. And I saw the defendant, Miss Lancaster. She gave no warning that the dog was off leash. And at that point, I later learned that the dog.
No, don't tell me. Just tell me what happened, sir.
Okay.
You saw Miss Lancaster, and she was walking this dog off leash.
Correct.
And
she gave no indication.
No. Not that she gave me no indication. Okay. She was walking this dog off leash.
Correct.
So you saw the dog off leash.
Yes.
Okay.
And
about how far were you from her when you saw the dog off leash?
Across the street, so roughly 40 feet.
Okay, and?
The dog charged across the street.
Okay, the dog ran across the street.
Yes, and started aggressively biting, lunging, and barking at my dog.
Okay, so at that point, the dog ran across the street and is in an aggressive stance barking at your dog.
Correct.
Hadn't touched your dog.
Correct.
What happened next?
It then diverted its attention towards my infant son in a stroller and my mother and started jumping on the stroller.
Did the dog, in fact, jump on the stroller?
Yes.
And?
And my response was to try to divert the attention.
What did you do? The dog jumped on the stroller.
Yes.
Didn't hurt your son, didn't hurt your mother.
Yes. So I got the attention of the dog again.
How did you do that?
By picking up my dog, who was on leash.
Well, that doesn't necessarily get attention of the dog. You say, hey!
Correct. Correct.
But you didn't say that. You just picked up your dog.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Probably exclaimed in order to get the attention of the dog.
You told me what you did. You picked up your dog and
started running across the street.
Started running across the street in the direction of where the dog had come from?
Correct.
And at that time, the dog was on the other side of the street.
Yes.
So let me understand this. You pick up your dog. Your mother is standing behind you in the stroller with your son. You leave your mother, your son on one side of the street, and you grab your wiener dog Mix and run across the street.
Correct. This was after I got the attention of the dog, by the way.
Okay. So now you got the attention of the dog.
Yes.
Ran across the street, so you were trying to divert the dog's attention, and the dog followed you.
Yes, it chased me.
Good. And you were running in her direction?
No. The Miss Lancaster had crossed the street at that point to where we were originally walking.
She was on your side of the street. You were going back to where you had initially seen her.
Correct.
Okay, so she had followed her dog across the street.
Yes.
Was she saying anything?
We made repeated pleas to ask for her to control the situation.
She ran across the street, because all this happened within seconds.
Yes.
She ran across the street. Was she saying anything to the dog?
She was yelling, "I'm so sorry, and I can't do anything."
Okay, is that what you were yelling?
I think I was yelling, "I'm so sorry, I don't know what to do," because I was in an extreme state of panic. I was probably having a panic attack.
I'm so sorry, I don't know what to do. Okay, and?
And after I ran across the street, when the dog chased me, I fell down. The dog ended up biting me on my left arm.
Okay, and I'd like to see whatever medical report you have from the bite on your left arm.
So the doctor said that...
No, don't tell me what the doctor said.
I haven't...
Could I see?
I have a picture.
May I see
Absolutely.
a medical... Did you understand my words? I said, may I see a medical report
I do not
from
have
a
a
doctor.
medical report.
So you didn't go to the doctor? The question is, did you go to the doctor, Mr.
I did
Kwan?
a virtual doctor's visit because this was during the height of the pandemic.
And what was the name of the doctor with whom you had a virtual visit?
I do not remember.
Should remember. You're suing for $10,000. You should have all that information. Because if you have a virtual medical visit, Mr. Kwan, there is a record of that. Doctor keeps a record of that. Do you understand?
Correct.
Okay. So now you're down, and this happened, according to you, on December 22nd. Did you get the dog's information?
I did.
On December 22nd?
Yes.
When did you speak to the owners of the dog?
I spoke to the owners actually that day because I wanted to get the rabies vaccination paperwork.
Did you get the rabies vaccination paperwork?
Yes.
On the 22nd?
Yes.
Now I'll see your photograph, sir.
I have that statute whenever you're ready.
I got it. Timing is everything. Okay, so the knee injury is when you fell.
Correct.
And the arm is a combination scratch and maybe tooth mark.
Yes, there are tooth marks on there, but not punctured.
I don't know. This long thing is not a tooth mark. So just one other question, Mr. Kwan. When you told the owners about this on the 22nd, when was the next time you contacted them? First, you wanted to find out whether or not the dog had received rabies shots. You were satisfied that it did, that you didn't have to see a doctor other than a virtual visit with a doctor whose name you don't remember. When did you decide not to sue the owners of the dog, who are homeowners, and who have homeowners insurance?
Yep. I wrote the owners of the dog a demand letter, and that is when I contacted them back, probably about 2 months after the incident.
Okay, so you wrote them a demand letter.
Correct.
And did they respond to your demand letter?
Yes.
Do you have copies of those letters?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see copies of your letter and their response.
That's the demand letter that I
just want to see copies of your letter and their response. Are they both here?
They did. They responded by calling me on the phone, not with a formal written statement.
Really?
Derek Kwan claims dog walker Danielle Lancaster owes for injuries resulting from a dog attack.
Okay. Well, you say the dog's a pit bull. The dog was a pit bull?
I believe so.
Dog a pit bull?
I asked after the incident. I did ask as well if it was a pit bull. They said no, it's a boxer mix.
You have a video of the incident. You have a video. Somebody has a video.
Yeah.
Correct.
Someone's Ring camera.
Okay. I'm going to allow you to tell me what the owner said in the conversation that they had with you. I'm not accepting it for the truth of the statement, only that you had a conversation with them, which is why you brought this action against Miss Lancaster today.
Correct.
So they decided, we're not going to put this in writing. We're going to call Mr. Kwan.
Correct.
And what did they tell you?
They were very amicable about the situation, and we're trying to solve the situation to make me whole.
Being amicable is subjective. I want you to tell me what you said to them and what they said to you.
What they said to me was that they would look into their homeowner's insurance policy in order to compensate me. Through a series of conversations, I decided that my grievance was not towards them because they were not exhibiting negligence in this situation.
Oh, no, I don't believe that, Mr. Kwan. Be very careful about what you say to me, sir. As between homeowners who have insurance and this young woman who has to walk dogs for a living, if I was somebody interested in $17,000, I wouldn't sue her. I would sue somebody who had, Kathy Bates said in one of my favorite movies, I'm older and I have more insurance. So that answer that you just gave me was a whole lot of, who shot John? The reason you decided not to proceed against the dog's owners is what?
The reason why I proceeded not to go against the dog's owners is because I have because some things are more important than money. And in this situation, I have more of an issue with the dog walker and her behavior during this situation rather than being compensated.
Well, let me suggest this to you, Mr. Kwan. There is no question that if Miss Lancaster was walking this dog and the dog was off leash, she was negligent. There's also no question in my mind that the extent of your damages is excessive. Very excessive. So.
But we're only counting physical damages.
Just a second. What I'm telling you is the amount of your damages is excessive. And if you wanted anywhere near that money, you could have sued both people. You could have sued the owner of the dog, as not only did they have the dog that attacked you, but they have, as Kathy Bates would say, insurance. And you would join the defendant as a party to that action. You would say you're all responsible. You own the dog, which you say was a pit bull, which you say was a pit bull, who just mauled and killed somebody in New York last week. An owner. You didn't do that, so I'm not getting all of this kumbaya business that the person responsible. Do you understand?
Yeah,
I'm just not buying it, Mr. Kwan. We understand each other?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. For somebody who has no medical, you had injuries, and you have to be compensated. You had no good excuse for walking the dog off leash.
I wasn't walking him off leash. When I was in the house happened, I had a key on the other side of the door. When I reached for that key, he scooted as hard as I could between my legs and got out. It wasn't that I was walking him and just decided to take him off the leash.
So you were negligent in letting the dog out?
Unfortunately, yeah. Yes.
But the dog had also been out for an hour at the time of the incident.
Yeah, because when I was trying to get him back in, but many attempts, he was very hard to get in, and at that point I was already having a panic attack, very emotional.
No.
Okay.
Now, Miss Lancaster, let's get it together. Let's get it together. Mr. Kwan says that the dog was out for a period of time, and you weren't chasing the dog when he first saw you. You were in a walking mode. So the dog may have initially gotten out. Miss Lancaster, don't. You know, I'm an ecumenical abuser. Were you out with the dog for a period of time?
Yes.
Did you have a leash in your hand?
I think
is not an answer. Did you have a leash in your hand?
No.
How long were you out with the dog?
Probably around an hour at that point.
Okay.
I was trying to get him back in, and twice I did have him by the collar, and he wasn't having it.
You didn't have him by the collar when he ran across the street?
No, but before then I did.
I don't care what happened before then.
Okay.
Before then, I was 21 years old, and I looked great in a bikini. Now, not so much. All right, Mr. Kwan, this letter was written to Miss Lancaster.
Correct.
I asked you for the letter that you wrote to the owners of the dog.
I do not have that with me right now.
Could we key up this video that I understand we have?
You can see my mother and infant son fleeing.
I am so sorry.
Call the person out. He bit me.
I know I will because he bit me too. I know.
Just grab him by the neck.
I can't. He bit me twice on my hand already. I don't know what to do. It's been an hour. I seriously don't know what to do. He bit me twice already. And I tried to get him on the leash, and he bit me twice. I don't know what to do. I am so sorry. I am so sorry.
Can I see the beginning of that and see if you can freeze frame on the dog, please? By the way, you do have a leash in your hand.
Yeah, I just realized. Yeah, I do have the leash actually. So
I'm going to walk over to the monitor.
So although the statute uses the word owner, there's vicarious liability if someone else assumed responsibility of the dog, even though the statute is clear, it only lists the word owner. But in California, they could be held liable through vicarious liability, a walker.
A walker.
That assumed responsibility for the animal.
Okay. He neither suffered serious physical injury, certainly not serious enough for him not to go to work for a week, unless you model Bermuda shorts. You don't model Bermuda shorts, do you, Mr. Kwan?
Just in my spare time.
Of course not.
Derek Kwan says dog walker Danielle Lancaster owes for damages after he was attacked by the dog Danielle was walking.
Okay, so, Miss Lancaster, it does appear to me that you were sort of overwhelmed by this dog.
Yes.
But
very much.
Bottom line is that Mr. Kwan was injured and frightened, not seriously injured, but seriously enough that if it were me, I would be furious as a result of your negligence. And he neither suffered serious physical injury, certainly not serious enough for him not to go to work for a week. I don't know what kind of work you do, but not serious enough unless you, unless you model Bermuda shorts. You don't model Bermuda shorts, do you, Mr. Kwan?
Just in my spare time.
Of course not. And you had no medical bills because you didn't see a doctor. But you were attacked. And I actually don't know why you didn't sue the owners of this dog, which looks scarcely like any boxer I've ever seen. And it is possible in California that certain dogs are not insurable. I don't know the answer to that question. It will not insure you in a homeowner's policy if you have a certain kind of dog. Are you familiar with that, sir?
Yes.
What are you familiar with? You're very familiar with statutes. So what is the law in California with regard to insurance? Can you be denied insurance or have to pay an excess premium if you have a dog that is either a pit bull or a pit bull mix?
I believe so.
You believe so. And would it be a fair statement, sir, that their homeowners either covered their dog or didn't?
They were looking into it, and they had renter's insurance that I believe covered it.
That you believe covered it? Oh, very foolish of you not to go against them. Okay. If you accept responsibility for a dog, you're supposed to be smart enough to look at a dog and say, you know what, why would you ask what kind of dog this is? Now, you let the dog out, and the dog was out with you for an hour.
Yes, yeah.
And during that time, you were walking around the neighborhood, and you had sufficient opportunity. You were walking around the neighborhood.
I wouldn't say walking. I was
What were you doing?
clearly trying to get the dog back in, and twice I did have him by the collar, and that's what I said in the video. I had him by the collar, and then both times he turned to nip at me on my wrist, so which is why I let go, because I didn't want to get bit.
I know, you said it.
So I was trying to have him follow me, which is what the owners told me to do. I had treats in my hand.
So you called the owners?
Yes, I did call
You called the owners, and you told the owners what was going on?
Yes, I did. They knew what was going on.
I would have sued the owners. Mr. Kwan, I would have absolutely sued the owners, unless they didn't have insurance that covered the dog, which is a problem for them if they had renter's insurance. In any event, Miss Lancaster, you assumed responsibility of this dog, and based upon your own negligence, your negligence, forget about the dog's breed, forget about these other people. As a result of your negligence, he was injured, and you have to compensate him for that. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. We're finished.
Court is adjourned.
I don't think he even got bit.
The doctor said that most of my injuries were emotional, but I did receive a bite from the dog onto my arm, but not a puncture wound.
I think he just, wanted some extra cash from me because that was probably an easier target.
Even though I didn't have any physical injuries, who knows how long my night terrors will last for.
I was literally having the whole panic attack, which is why, I had the reaction I did.
Yeah, I totally understand that, but the dog was off leash for an hour. She could have called the police or animal control during that time.
Don't open the door even in the slightest to a dog. Just wait till, they're away and gone.
Mostly my MO is getting back at those that I have grievances against.
Let's not even get started with dog breed, because I think the world knows where I live in that street. Mm-hmm. And 10 days ago, a woman who was watching a pit bull for one of her children, 64-year-old woman, her husband came home from work and found the dog eating her in the backyard. Sadly, she died. And there are certain breeds that are more dangerous than others. People have to recognize that. And if you choose to get a dog that is potentially more dangerous, Sarah, and I know that there are pit bull lovers out there and say, mine is the sweetest, mine is the loveliest, but then you have to accept responsibility if there's an issue. And clearly this dog was an issue because I believe this young woman. Didn't you believe her?
I believed her, and I think that dog walkers should also be cautious of what animals they're choosing to walk, because she could be held vicariously liable. So you might want to stick to 5-pound chihuahuas from now on, maybe.
Right. I mean, she was visibly very
Distressed.
upset. Visibly. And she said on the video, he bit me twice on the hand because she tried to get a hold of him. But she was still out with the dog for an hour. But he was, in fact, injured. And whether he went to the hospital or not, that's pretty traumatic.
Yeah. I don't think you can level it down to actual damages from a bill, but there's some component of punitive damages as well for the pain and suffering and trauma from an event like that.
That's true. But forget falling down and being attacked by a dog. Our family would feel as if, you know, you've got a splinter in your hand as a result of somebody's negligence, or a nail that went into your foot as a result of somebody being careless. Is very frightening. Anyway, people have to use their noodle, and your noodle.
हेलो गाइस, वेलकम टू यूएसए पल्स। आज हम इस छोटी सी प्यारी सी बच्ची के स्केच में कलर भरेंगे। अगर आपको ये वीडियो अच्छी लगती है तो आप वीडियो को लाइक करें, चैनल को सब्सक्राइब करें और वीडियो को अपने दोस्तों में शेयर करें। तो चलिए हम इस प्यारी सी पेंटिंग में कलर भरते हैं।